everyone worldwide who are tuning in via SydneyHarborChallenge.Sydney that our crews are literally low man on the totem pole when it comes to being in the waters of Sydney. I mean, they are going to be sharing these waters with ferries and yachts and catamarans and other boats that are out there. And again, we have these paddlers. They are on a particular set course, and we're hoping for safety while they're out there in these treacherous waters. We want to thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Lena Girl from Hawaii.
I'm Brad Gold from Sydney, Australia.
Mark Forbes from Aoka.
And we want to thank you guys so much for joining us. We are here at the Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. It is the largest outrigger canoe racing regatta in the Southern Hemisphere, and we can proudly say that just after 4 years, 4 years here in Australia. Now, when it comes to Australia, we understand you guys have, like, the water culture here in Hawaii, in Australia is absolutely crazy. Right? And we're super excited about that. But what I would really love to share with people around the world is, what is it about the particular waters of Australia that make you guys just incredible watermen? You guys start early in life. How do you guys become these great swimmers and rescuers? Yeah? Absolutely. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at the animated course to find out exactly where our paddlers are going to be going. Can you folks walk through this through with me? Seeing as Brad, I know this is your home. This is your home waters right here, right?
Brad. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what our paddlers are going to be going through.
So we're going to start here in Manly Cove and head out through the middle of the harbour and then turn around Bradley's Head and cut a straight course fairly hard up to the harbour bridge. And you're paddling in Sydney Harbour, there's a lot of iconic landmarks. We'll be going under the Harbour Bridge, which is not something you can do every day. You'll be paddling past and look to your right and see the Opera House and all the other landmarks that go around the harbour. It's a picturesque paddle, although not quite today. But
normally.
Normally it's a pretty picturesque paddle. As we can see, they're coming up to Bradley's Head now and just taking a quick turn up.
Now, is it a lot easier when you're closer to shore or when you're out in open water, when you're paddling on these outrigger 6-man canoes?
I think in the harbour, it's not like it's open water paddling. You're going to get a lot of reverberation of swells and little bits of current and things like that.
Wake from other ships.
Yeah,
and boats.
there's a lot of, you'll be match racing other crews out there because, you're not going to take too much of a detour off the course because the straightest possible way is going to be the quickest today. But yeah, I know. I think, following the other crews and being in line and the straightest possible way is going to get you there the quickest.
And then, of course, you folks had mentioned this earlier, that this might actually be better for the paddlers coming back because they're going to get a little push from the wind. Is that correct, Mark?
Totally, yeah. And the course, as you can see there, the course is open to the heads. So you get, we'll have a bit of a swell coming through the heads there today too. So that always makes it interesting, especially when the swells come up against the shore and then, as Brad said, reverberates back off. So if you time it right, you can get a little bit of boat speed off that, but you got to time it right.
Oh yeah, timing I think is everything, right? That rhythm with the teams, and you just saw a little bit about our teams are currently launching right now to get into the water here at the Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. Now, in that first part that we're going to be coming down, I understand you're going to be going against the wind. What is the thing that's going to make that one crew take the lead? Is it the rhythm of the team? Is it endurance? Is it the shape of the boat? What's going to be that main factor that's going to push that particular team forward? When you're going into the wind like that.
Guts.
Yeah, guts.
Guts, you left that bit out. Yeah, look, it really comes down to technique. If teams are used to paddling into a headwind, then they know they've got to lengthen out and they've got to lengthen the stroke and really crunch into it. Pick up the rate on the way home when you've got the wind behind you, for sure. But experienced crews will know what to do there.
Strength and timing is going to get
exactly
you through the first part of the race, and I think working as a team, working as a crew is vitally important for that first part.
Technique, strength, and timing. That's what we're going to be looking at for those lead crews in the mixed race.
For sure.
Awesome. And You know, it's amazing because Northern Beaches, and we mentioned this a little earlier, Northern Beaches is a team to beat. A lot of it has to do with the fact that this is their home waters, right? So they've got a bit of an advantage here. But we also have some very competitive crews that are coming up on that. So we just wanted to show you, just in the last 3 years that we've had our Sydney Harbor Challenge here, Northern Beaches has been that lead, but we're seeing some action coming in from Gold Coast as well. Is that correct? Mark, are you familiar with some of the paddlers and the teams from Gold Coast?
Yeah, Gold Coast are a very strong team. But you've got Cap Coast there from North Queensland. They've obviously done well. And then Port Macquarie, which is not far up the road. And then a team from Brisbane, you can see that too did well. So we've got, I think this year's opened it up again, but we've got different variety of crews in there. So I think we're going to see a different outcome.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm also noticing that all of these teams are Australian teams. I would love to see Hawaii team take one of these spots, right? But again, we do have these teams that are representing from Hong Kong. We've got them in from Hawaii, Tonga, New Zealand, across the ditch, New Zealand. And so we've got some great representation out there in the water. While Northern Beaches is definitely the team to beat for 2017, we do have a lot of great competitors out there.
Certainly do. And I think Tonga would love to. Yeah.
Nuku'alofa, correct.
Yeah. And I think last year, from memory, they had a little bit of a challenge. They flipped, unfortunately, but they did really well and come back strong. So I think they'll be out there today to really prove what they can do.
Absolutely. And you know, a lot of these teams are also vying for a spot in the Molokai Ihoi, as well as the Navahine Okekai, and that's when we start getting to the men's and the women's open races. But we're so very grateful to our proud sponsors, of course, Hawaiian Airlines, as well as Destination New South Wales, being a part of the Sydney Harbor Challenge. This is our 4th annual, and we're excited to get into things. I'm looking at that. Wow, I'm looking at the weather. It looks like it's getting a little bit more grayer out there.
Oh, it's just a passing cloud.
Yeah, you said
Nothing
that
to worry
all
about.
the other years. But we are excited to see what our mixed teams are going to be doing out there in the water. And we're so very grateful to have Kala'i Miller with Ocean Paddler TV calling that color commentary as we go through. We are preparing now for the mixed race, and I believe all of our boats are staging at this time. And this is exciting. Don't you guys wish you guys were out there? I know you.
I will be soon.
So you're going to be racing in the men's today?
Yes.
And
Yep.
Mark, are you going to be racing this year?
No, my wife's racing this year,
Oh.
so I'm here to support her as well as play
Oversee
my part.
things.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, you're going to be so sad you're not racing.
Yeah, I know.
You usually love to
I do.
get out there in the water, right? And get nuts.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to see that, and we're excited to bring this to you now. Our race is 22 kilometers. Is that correct?
Correct.
And as a 22-kilometer race, where does this drop us in regards to the world of outrigger canoe racing?
It's middle distance.
The middle distance race.
Yeah. I'd say the pinnacle of the canoe racing is, the Molokai.
Oh, yeah, Kaiwi Channel.
Yeah, Kaiwi
Yeah.
Channel, or even Tahiti.
Oh,
Some
absolutely.
Great races over there. But, I mean, for a harbour race, and with that kind of boundary, it's not from one point to another, we're out and back. It's a fair distance. I mean, we're going to come across a few challenges, and I think it's exciting.
Oh, absolutely. So our 22-kilometer race, we've got our crews out there in the water. They are getting themselves staged and ready here at Manly Beach. We're right on the side of Manly Wharf. And, on any given day, this is actually an incredibly beautiful town where a lot of people love to come and vacation. This is actually a vacation spot for Australians. Isn't that correct? This is a place that Australians love to run away to, right?
Yeah, Manly's pretty popular place to come.
Yeah.
Some people, I mean, maybe from up the coast, come down Manly. Likewise, we go up. But, I suppose everyone here is centred to around the water. And getting back to that, we're all kind of water babies. And, so
Correct.
we learn to swim early, and then we grab a board or whatever's in the garage and get out there and have a go.
I have to tell you, my first experience here in Australia, we were out at, I believe it was called North Bondi Beach.
Yeah.
And there were these little children, I'm not even kidding you, they look like toddlers, but I think they were like maybe about 5, 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
And they were part of learning water safety. And I guess these are children that want to become lifeguards when they grow up or something like that. And I was just like, really? And there was just loads of them all over the beach.
Yeah,
all different ages, but those 5, 6, 7-year-olds, I was just blown away by their abilities in the water.
Yeah, we're lucky here. We have a huge movement with surf life saving, and they teach us from that age about the water and safety, and then also there's the racing element. So, yeah, I suppose that movement is the whole way up and down the coast of Australia and around Australia. So I think, from a young age we get into it, and then we don't look back.
Yep, absolutely. Talking story of Brad Gall, who, by the way, is one of those guys that doesn't look back. Congratulations on your championships. He is a world champion paddleboard, and you've actually come to my home state of Hawaii and grabbed some of those championships a couple of times. Is that correct? The Molokai to Oahu paddleboard championships.
Yep, I was lucky enough to gain 2 titles there. So might be back there.
Yeah.
See what happens. But Hawaii's a dear place to me. I met my wife there, and I think it's an awesome place, and might be a place that I could call home soon.
Fantastic. I love hearing that. But
what did you just say? Come on now. I'll let you go over there, mate. Just the same.
Okay, well, you can come visit. We are here at the Sydney Harbour Challenge. Thank you so much for joining us on our live webcast, sydneyharbourchallenge.sydney, and it's happening worldwide as we cover the races here for our 4th annual event. I'm Lena Girl from Hawaii.
I'm Brad Gore from Sydney, Australia.
Mark Forbes from Aokra.
And Mark is not only just from Aokra, but he's also part of the IVF. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have an international governing body called the International VAR Federation. So I sit on that board as well, which is extremely exciting because we've got a whole new board now, and we've branched out into some new initiatives, one being the World Distance Championships. The inaugural one is in Tahiti in June. And then Australia tabled the bid in Honolulu last October, and we won the rights to host the 2019 World Distance Championships. Yeah,
that's exciting, you guys.
Yeah, it is, and it really sets the pinnacle for outrigging then, because we've got we've always had the World Sprints as an International Bar Federation event that goes around the world, and we hosted that on the Sunshine Coast last
year,
May.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we had about 5,000 people there for 3 weeks, so it was a pretty amazing event. But having an international event every year, not just a biannual one, but now an ocean one as well, a marathon one, is great for setting for our juniors to look for pinnacle events.
That's fantastic. Awesome. The IVF, very, very big mover and shaker in our outrigger canoe racing communities, right?
Yeah, and the amount of countries that are now coming on board, because
Absolutely.
with that inaugural one in Tahiti, for instance, we had about 26 countries represented on the Sunshine Coast last May. They've got 35 countries being represented for the World Distance Champs. But there's countries now that have thought about joining the International Bar Federation and seeing how exciting it's becoming. So they're jumping on board. So before long, our target, at our last board meeting, we set a target of 50 countries as part of the International Bar Federation. So we're well on the way to going there, so it's exciting.
Well, Mark, you seem like the kind of man that every time you set your mind to something, that you meet your goals. When I first met Mark in our very first year here at the Sydney Harbour Challenge, we had about, I believe it was 80 crews in the water. Yeah. And he said, next year, I'm going to get over 100, and it happened. And now this year we're looking at about 150 crews in the water for our 4th annual Sydney Harbour Challenge. So you're a man with a goal. I know you're going to reach all those goals. And I see that our mixed teams, they've got that goal to take first place. We are out there in the water, and I believe it looks like we're just about ready to start. I believe Kalai is actually on the boat. And he's not only on the boat just to be color commentary, but he's also with people that are going to help do our official start here. So we're patiently waiting on that one. Kalai standing by. Kalai Miller, of course, of Ocean Paddler TV, taking care of things. Kalai, tell us what's happening out there in the water right now.
All right, welcome back to the live camera boat here in Manly Cove. We're just about to have the start of our first race of the day. This is the mixed race. We have 55 crews getting ready to line up here. As you can see behind me, They've got two big yellow triangular buoys. Right now the crews are holding just off the starting line. Prior to the start, they'll kind of roll up there, and it is challenging to control 55 canoes that all are ready to get out on that course. So again, this is our mixed event. We have a cruise with 3 females, 3 males, and they're going to be doing that same 23-kilometer course that we're going to be running 3 times today, also for the women and men coming up after this. We've already had 1 canoe go over just getting up to the starting line. Back in Hawaii, we call that the huli, to flip over. And it is challenging, number one, just to get out of your seat once the canoe has gone over. It's also challenging to get the canoe back over, get yourself back in, clear it out of water, bail it out, get everybody back in and ready to go. So hopefully they'll be able to make it to the starting line in time to get going with everybody else. Now, this, I believe, is our official starting boat up there. That's Mike Mills Tom in the front with his yellow flag, and I believe that's caution for our paddlers, getting them ready to go. You can see everybody kind of rolling up to the starting line. Now, it's for our top crews, it's important for them to kind of get out in front and get clear of everybody else. There can always be, we just had our start right there, green flag is up and going. It's important for them to get out in front and get away from the mayhem of everything else that's happening around them. Now, with these rougher than normal conditions here in Sydney Harbor, of course, the huli or the flip is going to be a consideration for these crews. They may have rigged their boats a little lighter, thinking that they're going to have calm conditions, but it's going to be challenging for them nonetheless. The other thing that is always an issue here at the Sydney Harbor Challenge is the sheer amount of boat traffic that happens here in the harbor. They have a ferry system that really keeps this city working in so many ways. Many of the residents that live farther out here, far off the city center, commute with these ferries that run all day and night, every day of the week, and so Saturday is no exception. There's going to be a ton of boat traffic today, and these big boats not only will not stop for a little canoe, but they generate a tremendous amount of wake that could be an issue for some of these crews. So we're going to be watching out for that. It always brings another element into our racing here. Right in here in Manly Cove, we're looking at probably around 10 to 15 knots of wind. That will probably accelerate as we get closer to the actual ocean mouth of Sydney Harbor and up against the cliffs of what the Australians call Middlehead. Now, Middlehead is basically that peninsula of land that comes out near the entrance, the oceanward entrance of Sydney Harbor, and it's going to be generating a lot of backwash against those cliffs there. So our paddlers are kind of restricted in their course up along the coastline, and as they pass along that Middlehead in particular, Mike Mills Tom, our race director, informed me yesterday that that's always a point of concern when they have rough conditions like that. Once again, the locals say that this last month of weather here in Sydney has just been perfect, and it's one of those things like, hey, you should have been here yesterday, right? But it is what it is. Our paddlers are undaunted, ready to race, and this is going to be kind of a lot of work for them going uphill this first part of the race as they get past Middlehead and down towards the bridge. You can see just on our escort boat here, it's a little rough, but our paddlers remain undaunted. We're going to try to report on you what crews are taking the lead, which ones are out in front. We have, as you can see here, if you kind of pan a little bit to your left, only one crew in a green boat has kind of separated themselves from the rest of the pack, and everybody is following the official boat towards the first buoy, which is kind of keeping it just off the coastline as they travel point to point on their way to the turning buoy. So it's about 12 kilometers, about 7 miles each way for this course. And it's interesting to note that some of our paddlers will be doing not only the mixed race, but they'll be jumping in and doing the men's and women's race after. So some of these paddlers are going to be challenging themselves with, 46K, about 28 miles of paddling. And this is not easy paddling. This upwind kind of deal here is a struggle for paddlers. You a lot of times want to change your stroke rate, change the way you're paddling. It's a deeper, stronger, rougher type of paddling. But the good news is that what you're fighting up, you get to ride on the way back down. So they'll be opening it up and hopefully being able to catch some swell on their way back to the finish here at Manly Cove. So as we come to our first point of land, Again, one crew has separated themselves from the rest of the pack, but North Cliff right here seems to be doing really well. And who is that? As you can see, most of our paddlers are in their orange jerseys, which was a requirement as for the entrance in the race. Basically a safety color. Should we have crews go over and paddlers in the water, it's going to make it easier for the officials to assist our paddlers and head count and make sure everybody's back in on the canoe and moving as quickly as possible. So again, we just had a nice clean start for our mixed race, headed up to the first point of land in our first buoy, and things seem to be pretty clean here for the start of the mixed race. Throwing it back to the studio, Lena girl, just be thankful that you're sitting nice and tight and warm in the studio, but it is chilly out here. Our paddlers are definitely going to be keeping themselves warm with paddling, and we're not looking at any overheating issues on the water today, especially with our camera crew. But paddlers seem to be enjoying it, and that's the main thing, that they're ready to go.
Kala'i, you're doing a fantastic job out there, brother. And yes, I am enjoying my time here in studio.
Nice and warm back here, Clay.
Yes, because we are dry. I'm Lena Girl from Hawaii.
I'm Brad Gould from Sydney, Australia.
And you're watching all of the action of the Sydney Harbour Challenge right here, presented by Hawaiian Airlines. We're in our 4th annual, and the mixed crews have just taken the water. And as you can see, pretty competitive. I was kind of trying to get the number of that first crew that just kind of pulled away from everybody.
Yeah, they've got a commanding lead. I mean, paddling into the wind like that and to have that kind of a lead, let's just hope they can back it up and come home with the bumps.
Absolutely, but like you said earlier, it's going to come down to technique, to stamina, and just the endurance of that team, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is 22 kilometres. It's not just a one-way thing.
It's not a quick sprint.
They're displaying some pretty good strength out there. I don't know, I'd be worried about racing them. But there's a pretty red-hot field on their tail. But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens up the next can turn.
Absolutely. Now, again, we mentioned this a little earlier. Northern Beaches is that team to beat. They have literally dominated this particular race for the last 3 years. And this is only the 4th annual, so it could happen again. But, again, we are watching these teams just kind of pull away. And it's incredible to see what these guys have got going on for us. We're looking at teams not only from Australia proper, but we are looking at teams from Hong Kong, Hawaii, Tonga, New Zealand, as well as Singapore that are competing in this particular race right here. Now, we're getting some of these team numbers out there, and we're looking at some fantastic racing going on. I'd love to be able to see some of these numbers so I can, okay, we've got
4, 6.
We're looking at 406. But yeah, we're going to be getting those proper numbers so that we can identify which crews we're looking at right here at our Sydney Harbour Challenge. And this is pretty exciting. They're coming around.
As you can see, they're
hugging close, yeah.
They're quite close.
They've
They've got a little bit of reverberation of that water coming off the headland there. But, yeah, they're starting to break up, and it looks like the green crew are still way out in front. We'll get who that is. I think it might be the Northern Beaches. But, yeah, they're starting to form a line and get into their routine. But, yeah, it's still early days.
Yes, absolutely. Sydney Harbour Challenge right here, you know, when we are going through these particular teams, they are competing, and they are competing hard. Now, coming up in the next 2 races, these guys are going to be competing for spaces in the Molokai Ihoi and the Navahine o Kekai, brought to you by Hawaiian Airlines. They are going to be receiving some incredible first-place winners in the men's and women's divisions, win flights to Hawaii, and the opportunity to compete. So you can imagine how expensive that would be to fly in from different countries into Hawaii. And so this could really help these teams, right? But a lot of these guys that are racing in the mix are actually going to be jumping in to race with their men's and their women's as well.
Yeah, a lot of guys I know, they're backing up and they're doing it too. Yeah.
2 races.
So, maybe they're gluttons for punishment, but yeah, no, it's really good to see that they're backing up and getting back in there and doing another race. I mean, it's such a great incentive to have the opportunity to go over there and race and take that expense factor out. And thanks to Hawaiian Airlines, I mean, that's a great opportunity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, Hawaiian Airlines has flown in 2 teams to compete this year, and I believe they're going to be competing a little later on today. And that is, of course, our Hawaiian Airlines team Kokua, as well as the Red Bull Va'a. And we heard word that the Red Bull Va'a, that particular vessel called the Matahina, is a little bit different than what you're going to be seeing in the waters today from the other teams. So we'll get a chance to talk story with them about that.
Yeah, that would be good to see.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, Brad, you got to tell me a little bit. I know that this is your hometown and these are your home waters. But I heard about a documentary. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but a documentary that you're a part of, where you decided, you and your 2 mates decided, hey, you know what? Australia is not enough for us. I think we want to paddleboard out to Tasmania.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Well, it started with Zeb Walsh, one of my great mates. He had this idea and concept to paddle from mainland Australia across the Bass Strait to Tasmania, and asked me whether I wanted to do it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll come along with you. And then we teamed up with Jack Bark, who's a great paddler from America. He's won the Molokai a couple of times as well. And so I don't think we knew what we were getting into. Great idea, and we made it. It was an awesome experience. The waters, that's some of the harshest water I've ever paddled in, and
comparative to what we're seeing right now in today's race,
a lot less current. I mean, they've still got some pretty testing conditions out there today. Right. I mean, the wind and the rain's not too bad, but there's always stuff going on in the water. You can just have boats going past and you cause boats to rock and tip, and that just takes your timing out. And that's the main thing, is to have a boat with the timing, throw it all together, keep it together for the whole duration of the race.
Yeah. But doing the Bass Strait versus doing Sydney Harbour Challenge, I'm seeing the difference.
It was a little longer.
A little longer, a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But not to take away from what it is that our teams are going through right now in this mixed race, correct?
Yeah, it's all strength and endurance.
Mm-hmm.
We paddled 6 days, roughly 50 to 60 kilometres each day, made 360 kilometres across that strait of water. Saw some wildlife, plenty of that, and got to see some amazing parts of. There's dotted islands along the way,
all along the way.
Got to see some amazing parts of those islands that rarely have people go onto the islands, I think that it was something that it's a lifetime experience. You never do that again. It was.
But you did it once.
Did it once. Did it on a paddleboard, and to our knowledge, not many people have ever done that. So could have been a world first. But it was just. What you get from that is the team camaraderie. We're all pulling together, and we all kind of went through our stages of, we're going to make it, and you pull together, and I suppose that's going to relay back to these crews. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to want to pull together when the times are tough, when they turn that can, get to the end and come back, and the lactate starts building. And I suppose the teams that do that best are going to come up trumps today.
Right. In fact, I would love to see exactly where our teams are at right now in regards to the race. They might actually be turning that can soon. No, maybe I'm calling it a little too soon.
Early. They are going into the wind, Lena.
Yeah. Calling I'm trying to be positive and optimistic about our teams, because we did start off with some very stormy wind conditions, and we had a little bit of a delay on our race. Start time started right at 9:19 was when our mixed cruise launched from Manly Beach. So we're excited to see where they're at right now. Hoping to catch in with Kala'i Miller out there on the boat to see where he's at. But we're really excited. We are looking at boat number 19. That's Northern Beaches. They have been our leader throughout this particular event for the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we've got different competitors from all around the country just in this particular race alone. Hong Kong, Hawaii, Tonga, New Zealand, as well as Singapore, making the mixed races something to behold. It's the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines, with a very big mahalo from Destination New South Wales. Mahalo, of course, meaning thank you. I just get to share some of my and then in Australian thank you is
cheers.
Cheers. With some cheers to Destination New South Wales. Hopefully we can catch in some more water action right now, but we are in the middle of our mixed race. We've got the men's races coming up later on this afternoon. Coming up shortly, we're going to have the women's races, and we're extremely excited about that. I love seeing the ladies come out, and they really bring the show.
Yeah.
Look, we're out there in the water, and we're following along. Those conditions are crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's usually when you're out there in the water, you're expecting blue water, light blue skies, but it's just everything is absolutely gray, and we're actually looking at the Bondi. This is our Bondi open mixed team right now.
Yeah,
in that
they're going well. I
red
mean,
vessel.
the weather's throwing everything at them, and they're slicing through that water pretty well. It's really good to see this international flavour come along to this event because, as I said before, when we paddle in these waters and we see the same old crews, and you really don't know what to expect. I mean, Northern Beaches, I'm sure they're in there up there at the Mint, but there's some other pretty good talented crews that are all hot on their heels.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, other big contenders in this particular are Cap Coast, Gold Coast as well, and this is exciting. I love seeing the action from the boat right here,
Yeah.
and we're just kind of moving along with them.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I don't know, I got to be honest with you, I don't know exactly where in the water they're at, if they're going to be coming around. Looks to me like they're still part of the middle part of that harbor.
They're just in front of the mouth, so you can see out. It looks like, it's hard to tell with the rain, but it looks like they're copying a bit of the swell coming in through the heads. And they're heading up to their first turn. They shouldn't be too far away from that. You can see North Head in the far left side. So they're a few Ks into it. They've got probably they're probably coming up to about 2 or 3 Ks before their first sort of bend around that headland.
And in this particular time, they're still going into the wind,
Yeah.
especially because with the storm conditions as well. They're still plowing into the wind right here, huh?
Yeah, they're ploughing into the wind. They've got some swell coming off to their left, and that's bouncing back off those headlands. This part of the course, they're staying out away from those headlands to keep the bounce down, and they're kind of paddling point to point. So looks
In
like
fact-
everyone's following the same sort of a course, which is a smart thing to do in these conditions, but there's a bit of match racing going on there.
Now, in the past, at about this time, this is where we started to see quite a few of the crews huli
Oh, yeah.
because of that slap back from the sides of the...
Yeah, it's always
Of
tricky.
land.
When you get a side chop in these boats, and if you have that moment where everyone leans right, then it's a small balance point where you just flip, and to come back from that is it's pretty hard to do. I mean,
Hard,
Mark
yeah.
mentioned before, Tonga actually did that in their
Yep.
race last year, and they'll be looking to come back harder and stronger than ever because I mean, all you want to do is just regain.
They were an extremely strong team,
Yeah.
just shooting out the gate there. But once they did the huli and they were able to come back, they came back as strong as they could, but it was really, really challenging.
Yeah, they did, and as I said, they'll be out there and doing their best to stamp their mark on this race.
We're excited right here. It's the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines with a very big mahalo to Destination New South Wales. Also, a very big mahalo to our Manly Council for allowing us to come out and camp out for the past few days and prepare for the 4th annual. Pretty exciting action right here. I get a chance to talk story with some of our... We're getting some wipes on the camera. We got some action going there when they're wiping the camera. That's hilarious. But we're sitting here with Brad Gall, who is a world champion paddleboardsman. What do they call it?
Paddleboarder.
Paddleboarder. And he's also done some outrigger racing as well. And I want to say aloha to this guy.
Yeah.
How's it, brother?
Good. How are you?
Jimmy Austin?
Yes.
Talking story with one of our gang from Team Kokua. This is very exciting. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
And is this your first time in our Sydney Harbour Challenge?
It is. We used to come down and do some races. Over 15 years ago, we'd go down and do the Hamilton Island race, and that was a great event. And then once Hawaiian Airlines got involved with this event, I've just been dreaming to get down here and race in the Sydney Harbour Challenge.
Fantastic. Now, part of Team Kokua is, and representing Hawaiian Airlines, there are a lot of paddlers that are part of the Hawaiian Airlines employee team, and if I'm not mistaken, we got over 6,000 employees.
Yes.
But what does it take to be one of the guys in, I mean, you've only got 6 seats.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So what did it take for Jimmy Austin to be a part of Team Kokua this time around?
Oh gosh, I really don't know how they selected me. You know, I mean, a lot of us do a lot of competitive canoe paddling back home, and so it's a real unique opportunity. I mean, we got 3 pilots in the crew, we got 2 mechanics that work for the company, and a guy that works at the corporate office, and so being able to put that crew together, we started training 2 weeks ago for this race, whereas most teams have been together forever.
For years,
yeah.
absolutely.
We 2 weeks ago got in a canoe. We've paddled 3 or 4 times since we've come down here, and we're excited to get out there and represent for the company.
Now, you've seen some of the footage of what's happening right now in the mixed race. What is that? What kind of feelings are going through you and in your mind?
I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Yeah, absolutely.
You crazy water people, I tell you.
We're just junkies that love to get in the ocean, and I mean, the conditions right now, what they're going through, they're slogging for it upwind, but in their mind, they're, at least if I was in the canoe, I'd just be knowing that, hey, whatever we're going through now, when we turn around, it's just going to be a sleigh ride coming back. So I'm really looking forward to getting out there, and shoot, the more wind, the better.
Fantastic. I love hearing that. Jimmy, how long have you been paddling?
Oh, golly, how long have I been paddling?
As long as I've been alive.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while, so but love spending time on the water.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I imagine it's a difficult dynamic when you're paddling with people that you're not, I mean, these are the guys that you compete against, rather. You compete against in any other race, but for the first time, as part of Hawaiian Airlines Team Kokua, you guys get a chance to be in the boat together. What's that like?
Well, it's a real unique opportunity. I paddle with some of the guys that are in the crew, but to get to meet all these other people, I mean, I work in the airplane. I work with the flight attendants and the pilots, and we work with the mechanics a little bit, but to get to meet people outside of the realm of our operation of what we do, there's a whole other side to Hawaiian Airlines and the corporate office, and so to get to meet all those people and the marketing people and all the people that put this race on. It's a real unique opportunity, and we really enjoy coming down here and getting to experience this whole thing as well. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Thank you, and I appreciate you being here. What do you love about Australia? 3 things.
Oh, well, the people for sure. they're really awesome. We do share a passion of water sports in general, and I think that's what. There's a big bond where we're all drawn towards outrigger paddling.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of, I think, how it all started to take place back in the day when Walter Guild brought canoe paddling down here with Kamoa Kalama. The sport has just grown from there, and we get a lot of teams coming up to Hawaii to race as well, and yeah, it's just a great opportunity.
Yeah, it's actually a connection of island folks, right?
Yes.
Our islands are really small, and Australia is just like one big honking island, right? It's just one big island.
Yeah.
But just that island feel, island folk, that's what we feel.
Totally, and the people down here are just great, and the food is awesome. I mean, something different, you know.
yeah.
What's something you've enjoyed since you've been here, food-wise?
Food-wise? Oh, gosh. Okay, I did try Vegemite.
Definitely.
Sorry, Australia.
I like Vegemite.
I have a
My
hard
wife
time
likes
liking
Vegemite.
that stuff. You like it?
I like Vegemite.
But you folks have both paddled all over the world. You folks have both been in these kinds of adverse conditions. What is it that really helps you pull through? When you're in a boat and you're in these kinds of conditions, it's great. The water is coming in. I'm sure there's going to be times that you guys are going to have to be bailing out water and stuff like that. I'm just trying to help you guys because we're sitting here all comfy in a studio, all nice and dry, and we've got our men and women out there just roughing it right now. Being in that boat right there, if you can just kind of help us understand what it is that they're going through.
Well, I think Jimmy said before, it comes down to teamwork, and I mean, they've had 2 weeks to prepare as a team for this, and a lot of crews have had a lot of time. And knowing how each other perform in chop and being able to keep that stroke and keep the rhythm and keep the morale of the boat up when you're constantly getting blasted by chops, then I think that's the key. I mean, you could have 2 or 3 really good paddlers in the crew, but it's about the crew. It's not about one individual person. So, I don't know, Jimmy, what do you think?
Well, I mean, just looking at what's going on here, there's a lot going on with them working together as a team, but the steersman has to figure out where to go, first of all, and when it's raining like this, There's certain currents in the harbor, and it looks like Outrigger Australia here in first, and they look like they're navigating the water pretty well, but there's currents out there that you got to deal with, and then people have to communicate in the crew with what's going on. Is there water in the boat? Do we need to bail? That kind of thing.
Right. And you know, I think it's important for us to be able to hear that, especially for people that are tuning in worldwide. SydneyHarborChallenge.Sydney, they're seeing the conditions, and you know, I'm sure they can kind of imagine it, but unless you're a paddler, you really don't know exactly what it is these guys are going through. So we've got most of the pack following this particular team. This is again Outrigger Australia, boat number 21. We are watching them. They are by far in the lead.
Yeah, they've got a commanding lead. I mean, we saw them before with about 20 metres, and now they've opened that up to 150. So they're powering ahead. They're coming up to George's Head by the looks of things now, and that's not too far from the first major turn around Bradley's Head. So they're doing real well.
Yeah, they look like they're paddling really well. The blend looks really good.
Pretty consistent in their stroke.
Very
clean.
They seem to be very comfortable with their lead as well, you know. So they've settled into, hey, just let's stick with the game plan of whatever they planned out. And
with that rhythm.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keeping it smooth and making sure they don't make any mistakes. That's really the big thing out there. You get out there, don't make any mistakes, and the person that makes the least mistakes is going to probably end up winning the race.
Absolutely. So as long as they can stay consistent, once they turn that can and start coming back, it'll be, like you said, a sleigh ride.
Sleigh ride. It's going to be phenomenal. It'll be fun to watch.
At that point, do we just bust out Jingle Bells and start singing?
Well, I mean, there's a little more that goes to it. It's a little bit easier going into the wind because you're just paddling straight into it. As soon as you start coming back, now the steersman has to start keeping more control. There's a change in cadence as you chase for bumps. You have to work a little bit harder, knowing when to go, when to rest, that kind of thing. So, you know, I've seen in many races around the world, you can have a team that's really good at blending and paddling well together, but if they don't know how to surf, and when they turn around and a crew behind them knows how to surf, they can run them down. So it'll be interesting to see if they can maintain their lead and win the race.
And this is pretty interesting as well, because Outrigger Australia has not been in any of the leads in the last 3 years. In fact, Northern Beaches was supposed to be that team to catch. They've taken the top spot in the last 3 years for this particular race. And I'm not sure exactly where Northern Beaches is now in regards to the whole pack and how they're going to move. But with this far a lead, it's going to be a lot of work for those teams to catch up.
Well, they've obviously gone away from last year's race and said, look, let's knuckle down. We want to win this year, and put together a crew and worked on it. And you can see that the results are paying off by the way that they're paddling now. And, yeah, good luck to them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's the Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. Talking story with Jimmy Austin, one of our crew of Team Kokua. He's going to be getting into one of those in just a little bit for our men's races. Also joining him in the water for the men's race will be Brad Gall of Australia. I'm Lena Curl of Hawaii, and very excited to see all of the great action that's happening in the water. I'm wondering if Kalai's having himself a good old time out there, bouncing around in that escort boat, that catamaran.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably freezing his butt off, too. You know? It's 66 degrees down here out on the water. I'm sure it's colder. So I don't know what that is in Celsius.
It's about 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
She told me before that he was really looking forward to getting on the boat. So, oh, well, we're lucky we were in here.
Yes, we are. And we're very lucky to have such fantastic sponsors as Hawaiian Airlines, as well as Destination New South Wales, and a very big aloha going out to the Manly Council for allowing us to be here in beautiful Manly Beach for Sydney. And I say beautiful regardless of the storm. Stormy conditions, sunny conditions, this place is a wonderful place to be. It's got a wonderful beach culture, and we are in the middle right now of our mixed race of the Sydney Harbor Challenge. Outrigger Australia has pulled ahead of the crew. We've got second and third places right now, and they look like they're struggling a little bit coming around that corner.
Yeah, there's a bit of chop.
Well, as you start getting into close to these points and stuff, as the wind hits the waves and the waves hit the walls, it creates a backwash effect, and so you start to get the water moving back and forth, kind of like a washing machine. Makes it a little harder to paddle through. Really got to work together as a team, keep the AMA down, and just try power through.
And it looks like, I believe that this team that we're looking at right here is from Tahiti.
Yep.
And in competition. I'm a little surprised because normally I thought Tahitian strokes were a little bit shorter, where they do a little cut into the water and pull back quick.
Not necessarily, you know.
They'll switch it up in different conditions?
Absolutely. And different teams from Tahiti do a little bit of different stroke. You know, you'll see some of the shell guys paddle a little bit differently than per se EDT or OPT, but those guys are just a whole nother level. You know, the Tahitians have really taken paddling to a whole nother level, and it's exciting because it brings the whole level for everybody else.
I think so
they
too.
set the bar here, and it's
Absolutely.
like we all got to get to there.
Absolutely. They raise it all up. I mean, what are we looking at in the way of conditions out there? I mean,
everything's getting thrown at them. It's raining cats and dogs. They've got chop coming from the side. They've got a bit of swell coming from the other side. They've got the wind in their face, and it's
we got a Manly ferry at the back.
Yeah, so you know
that
that
ferry is going to throw some wash as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe you're looking to get onto the back of one of them on the way home.
It's the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines, taking a look at some of the action right now with the mixed race, and talking story with Jimmy Austin from Team Kokua, Brad Gall here of Australia with a color commentary. We've got Kala'i Miller right now at Ocean Paddler TV out on the water, and I'm kind of excited to see what things are from his point of view.
Yeah.
And what he's experienced out there. He's probably going to give us a little bit more of that background there. Outrigger Australia is currently in the lead, and we've got Tahiti. I believe they were in at 4th place. A couple of other teams in between that. So excited to see what's happening right there. I think we're starting to hear a little bit of Kala'i too coming through, so he's going to be giving us some of that background there. But I think right now, because of the weather conditions, we're having a tough time catching some of that video from him, video and audio feed from him. You know, I think it's time for us, we're going to take a real quick commercial break, and we will be back with more of the action right here at the Sydney Harbour Challenge, brought to you by and presented by Hawaiian Airlines. We'll be right back.
The Sydney Harbour Challenge is presented by Hawaiian Airlines. Supported by Destination New South Wales. Find out more at sydney.com. And brought to you in part by these fine supporting sponsors.
The spirit of our home lives in moments like these. Hawaiian Airlines. Hawaii flies with us.
Welcome back to our Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. I'm Lena Girl from Hawaii.
I'm Brad Gold from Sydney, Australia.
And I'm Jimmy Austin, also from Hawaii.
Team Kokua representation right over here, Jimmy. Thank you so much for being with us. And of course, this is your very, very first Sydney Harbour
time.
Challenge.
Yeah, I've done a lot of racing down here in the past, but never gotten to race actually in Sydney Harbour. I think we're looking forward to a little bit better weather here, but
Should have been here yesterday.
exactly, right? So, but to be able to go and paddle underneath the Sydney Harbour Bridge and see all the different sites, I've climbed on top of the Sydney Harbour Bridge before, but to be able to paddle in the harbour with all the boats going in all kinds of different directions, I'm really looking forward to it.
I know, and our teams are actually going to be coming around Bradley's Head in just a little bit. But I did get some insight about the Sydney Harbour Bridge in regards to this particular paddling event. Do you know that it's not legal to paddle under the bridge? Any other vessels at any other time during the year are not allowed to paddle under Sydney Harbour Bridge. But because of all of the great work that has been done with AOCRA in preparing for this particular event, that they've actually allowed us to do the paddle under the bridge and turn the can at Luna Park before we come back.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I didn't even know
Pretty
that.
exciting, right? So, the fact that you're going to be able to, you're making history. You've climbed the bridge, and now you'll be paddling under it.
This is going to be great. That's going to be great. I mean, it's such an iconic spot, too. You watch every New Year's.
Yes.
They have all the fireworks going off on the
yeah.
bridge and everything else. So, different viewpoint than standing on top of the bridge. It's pretty scary hiking up there, by the way. I'm not one of heights, even though I fly planes for a
I was
living.
just about to say, wait, aren't you a pilot?
Yes, but I don't know what it is. I'm not one to really like being on high things, but my wife and I wanted to go up on top of the bridge, so we did a hike up to the top, and now we get to experience a different view going underneath. So.
Absolutely, and of course we're going to be seeing the iconic Sydney Opera House as well as we're coming through. Our teams are going past Taronga Zoo as well, and of course we're taking a look at right now our lead boat. This is Outrigger Australia number 21 with I can't even say a comfortable lead. This is just
it looks like a commanding lead.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very commanding lead.
Yeah.
A commanding lead right there, and they've settled into this incredible rhythm right now that's just moving through and helping them cut through that wind.
Yeah, it looks quite effortless.
Well, and they're paddling really well. I mean, you watch the steersman, he's not really poking the boat very much. He's paddling a lot. You've got the two girls you get the girl in one setting the tempo and two following along, and then you got the two men in the 3-4 power seats just really hammering that boat along and pushing it through. It looks like the wind's actually coming from the left now and making it a little bit tougher because it'll actually start to make that outrigger Ama want to flip over.
Right, so they're going to have to work a little harder here. Again, we are in the midst of the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines, webcasting live at sydneyharbourchallenge.sydney. And we're coming up to one of the more iconic points here as part of Sydney Harbour. Yeah, and Brad, can you tell us a little bit about this particular area?
Bradley's Head, it sticks right out in the middle of the harbour. There's a bit of current that can gather around there that could play a little bit of havoc with these crews. Obviously, Outrigger Australia is not going to bother them. But as soon as they turn that head, they will have their first glimpse of the harbour bridge, and that's their turning point. And I suppose they've got enough lead to get up under that bridge and still look up and have a look around, and it's hard not to. I mean, I still do it when I go under there. So.
Oh, absolutely. I don't care where you're from. You could be living right down the street from the Sydney Harbour Bridge, but to be in the water under it, that's just... It's unheard of for a lot of people.
Yeah.
In fact, in our very first year of the Sydney Harbour Challenge, when we were coming out of Middle Harbour, quite a few of the crews, because they've never had the opportunity to paddle under the bridge, literally stopped, pulled out cameras, and started taking pictures in the middle of the race because they were just in awe of having this opportunity to do this. And I'm talking about the Australian paddlers as well as those that are coming in from around the world.
Yeah.
So, it is such a beautiful place, regardless of the weather, to be able to come to Sydney and experience this.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great experience to paddle in the harbour any day, and even if it is your backyard, there's always something new happening out there. There's boats going everywhere. You seem to be dodging things, and then there's wildlife in the harbour too, and we all know about that. But
no, we don't. Tell me a little bit. No, for real. Tell me about some of the wildlife that our teams could be encountering out there.
There's seals, sharks. There's everything. There's a lot of schools of fish actually gather up under the harbour bridge. You've got the tunnel that runs underneath. There's structure around there. It's a bit of a haven for marine wildlife.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So they're going to be seeing some incredible things around the harbour and a lot of incredible things in the water as well.
Yeah, hopefully we don't encounter the latter. But yeah, the crews out there will definitely have their eyes and ears open. But hopefully it's just looking at the scenery and there's no disruptions from the wildlife.
Absolutely, because we want this race to go over very well. Outrigger Australia is currently in the lead right now, and we're going to be cutting back to Kala'i Miller, Ocean Paddler TV. What's going on, Kala'i?
Welcome back to our live camera boat here, the Sydney Harbour Challenge. Behind us is the leaders of our mixed race. That's Outrigger Australia. They're starting to open up an even bigger gap from the rest of the competition. And for all of you that are familiar with the Sydney Harbour area, they're passing what's known as Bradley's Head. And at this point in the race, they're probably now coming into the second quarter of this race, about halfway to the turn. They're going to be taking a slight right-hand angle on this. Now, how that's going to affect them, this is also a little bit of rough water right here. We're going to get into even more boat traffic as we approach things like the Opera House and, of course, the Sydney Harbour Bridge. We have the Taronga Zoo is going to be off to the paddlers' right-hand side. But they've been kind of going into a headwind up to this point. Now, as they turn to their right a little bit, they're going to get some alma-side wind, alma-side wave action, making it even a little more sketchy as far as worrying about a huli or a flip. So you're going to see them passing. There's a big ocean liner in the distance, and that's one of the amazing parts about this race is that there's always something to see in the background. Sydney is such a vibrant and busy city, and there's just so much stuff like boat traffic and beautiful scenery and vistas all over the place. And so coming up, you'll be able to see a big ocean liner next to our cruise and the whole deal. So it's kind of exciting, kind of pretty, a lot of eye candy always here in Sydney Harbour, even in this kind of weather. So right now, again, we're at Bradley's Head for all of you that are familiar with the Sydney Harbour area, and they're making a slight right-hand turn as they are approaching the main 180-degree turn under the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Now, with all this boat traffic and these big ocean liners, our crews might have to vary their course a little bit to stay safe in whatever area of the course they're able to see. Of course, large boat traffic takes precedence over our six-man canoe race, unfortunately. Not the way I think things should be, but that's just the way it is. So we have, again, moving up the coastline towards Taronga Zoo, and these crews are going for it despite this kind of inclement weather. So they're tucking in actually to this little bay here and having to not draw a straight line point between the bridge and Bradley Harbour. So they're tucking in up along the zoo here, following up to a buoy there. So again, we're staying here with Outrigger Australia, our first place crew, and they are opening up a gap, I would say even as much as a half a mile for our American viewers, but maybe a couple, at least a kilometer gap here. Now, they've just turned and been actually on a downwind leg, so you can see them kind of picking it up. The steersman is able to ride a little bit of what he's going to find here, just heading to this Bay Area. And that's one of the keys to being successful in a race in today's kind of conditions is being able to change up what you're doing to make the best use of whatever the ocean is going to give you. So right now he's trying to find the best that he can and do what he can with what's being given. But we're going to throw it back to you in the studio. We're going to drop back around to Bradley's Head and pick up with our second, third, fifth, sixth place boats and see how they're doing. But again, Outrigger Australia, they got a comfortable, confident lead, taking the time to bail as they're heading downwind, which is smart, right? Wind's helping them. They don't have to work as hard. This is the easiest time for them to drop one of the paddlers and get water out of the canoe. So they're continuing to go. Again, going back to the studio now, we're going to go, they're going to be hitting a little turn buoy, as you see, but we're going to drop back and check out how the rest of our canoes are faring as they come around Bradley Head.
Kala'i Miller, Ocean Paddler TV, out there in the middle of the action. He's getting rained on. They've got swell hitting the boat, but we appreciate all of the great insight there. And we're coming around Bradley's Head. You saw it, HMAS Sydney, one of the iconic points of Sydney Harbour. And, while we were watching some of that action, we were getting some inside scoops from Brad Gall here, who calls Sydney Harbour his home. I mean, this is his home waters. This is where you train. This is where you race and you compete. And you were talking a little bit about the importance of kind of hugging along that edge when you're coming around Bradley's Head, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a bit of assistance to be gained by hugging it around there. There's a little bit of current pushing out. It'd be interesting to see how this crew navigates their layer back under the harbour bridge, and then whether they draw a straight line to Bradley's Head or whether they cut back in, because you don't really know until you're out there with the conditions. But there is definitely some gain to be made by catching some bounce and bumps off the headlands that are there. So, yeah, I mean, it's more so whether the other crews are going to follow their line or what. But yeah, it's interesting to how it pans out, because then the races that follow are obviously going to learn from that.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll go from there.
So we've got to watch Outrigger Australia either do all the right moves or make the mistakes, so that right? So
We
those
learn
teams
from
can
that.
learn it, right?
So when you come around that head, though, is there some shallow spots that you got to watch out for? I mean, we did a paddle in the water yesterday. We were paddling out to North Head out here just to get a little warm up, and all of a sudden I'm steering the boat and looking around, and shallow spot here, shallow spot there, and if you really don't know where you're going, it makes it a little more tough.
Yeah, there is. I mean, there's a little wharf straight off the back of Bradley's Head, and then you can come around, and then there's points that come out. There's actually some shallow spots that are close by, and yeah, if you know the harbour and you can navigate those things, then it's definitely going to be an advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, and it's good to hear that kind of advantage coming in from a seasoned surfer and a seasoned paddleboarder in Sydney Harbour. It's the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines, and it looks like we're looking at team number 6. This is Cradle Coast. Cradle Coast. I'm not familiar with where that is in the greater part of Australia. Are you familiar? Cradle Coast?
No.
We're like, okay, hey, who are these people?
No, Australia's a big place.
Yeah. I don't know everything in my country either, so I hear you. But I'm looking at that particular ama, a little bit different in their design.
Yeah, there's some different design canoes. You'll notice they're not the traditional Hawaiian canoe that you'll see, but these are more the unlimited style canoes that have taken shape down here, and the sport seems to be progressing and growing into that direction of unlimited style canoes, and that was just a different design. It looks like more for flat water, and looks like they're handling the upwind really well. And then these are the Kamanu boats here.
Yeah, I see the corners.
And looks like they're passing Bradley's Head as well, and I saw a ferry going by in the background. Look at the chop and the water. Man, it just looks like a slogfest out there.
Now, we are broadcasting live at SydneyHarbourChallenge.Sydney, broadcasting live around the world, and I imagine that there's probably a lot of family that are tuning in, just clocking in. But when you say something like unlimited, because I know this is a lot of our terminology here as outrigger race in the outrigger racing community, when you're saying unlimited, what does that mean in regards to the class of boat that they're in?
Well, so back home in Hawaii, they created a class that was called a spec boat. And the reason why they made a class was to allow the koa boats to be competitive while they would race.
Now, the koa boats are like, what are you looking at, 400-pound?
400-pound
right?
boats, yes. So they created a spec class that did the same as well. It had to be 400 pounds. It had to have certain measurements to it. And so then that way the koa boats would be competitive when teams would race in the koa boats versus the spec boats. Well, as the sports progressed, about 8 years ago or so, we started playing with designs to see what can we do with six-mans? How light can we make these boats? Can we get out there and start racing on them? And this is kind of what's progressed, and Australia's taken it to this level of unlimited canoes, and people are developing different boats, and it's great.
Yeah, it's how the sport progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, just having a little problems with my microphone here. It's pointing wherever it wants to. But, there is a particular boat that the Red Bull Va'a is going to be putting out in the water, and it's called the Matahina. And again, another different design. And it's amazing to see how much, different designs, different shapes that are coming out in regards to, and of course, these different classes that allow us to, oh, wow.
Shallow.
Yeah, that is super shallow out there.
They're cutting it fine. It's just good to see. They're running the gauntlet.
So these are mostly these boats you see here are the Kamanu composite boats that are built down here in Australia. It seems like most of the clubs have those, and they're, like you mentioned, Red Bull is racing a boat that was brought in from Tahiti.
From Tahiti.
Right. There's 3 boats that actually got brought in here. I'm not sure who the other 2 teams are that are racing in them. We tried everything because we wanted to race in one of them. Of course, right? You want to race in the best.
I want to race one.
Yeah. So, but. No, they all have their benefits and advantages and disadvantages, and spending time in each canoe, you find stuff that works and doesn't, and I've been fortunate to be a part of helping with try all these different boats as they've been designed over time, and the boats just seem to be getting better and better and
Well,
lighter.
I think that's how you recognize that outrigger canoe racing is truly a competitive sport, when the performance of these of the tools that you need to race get better and better and better with time. Right?
Absolutely.
We're using the technology. We're using there's always going to be a nod back to the tradition, of the core canoes. But at the same time, we're looking at what can make this faster. What can be a better tool for our six people
Right.
in this canoe together. What's going to give help them with their endurance, their technique, their performance.
Well,
right?
it's about tradition and the coal boats, but then it's also about innovation
Absolutely.
and seeing where things can go. Kalakaua back in the day had electricity in the palace in Hawaii before the United States had electricity in the White House.
Absolutely.
So the Hawaiians have always been about innovation and seeing where the sport could grow.
Absolutely. Traditions and technology
Absolutely.
meshed together in one. And we're seeing that in today's races for the Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. What you could see there, some of our teams just kind of rounding out from Bradley's Head. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And we're going to start seeing the more picturesque shots of Luna Park and the Sydney Harbor Bridge.
Yeah, Opera House.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand that you got to get yourself going. You got to go get yourself prepared.
Yeah, we're going to go get the canoe in the water and make sure we got everything ready for these rough conditions and hopefully don't freeze my butt off.
Yeah, well, do you know the rest of your team, Team Kokua? You want to give them a little shout out here?
Oh, yeah, we have a couple of maintenance guys, Mario and Ian in the crew, and then a guy that works in the corporate office, Mark Dial, and then we also have Mike Yanovich, who's a pilot, and Brady, who's also a pilot. They're our Airbus pilots, and then I fly Inter-Island. So we've got a great mix of people, and we're looking forward to getting out on the water and going and playing around.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for representing Hawaiian Airlines right here. Team Kokua as part of the Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. Okay, beat it, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See you guys. Yep.
Thank
Good
you,
luck.
Jimmy.
Have a good one.
Remember
Jimmy
to get
Austin.
your camera out under the Harbour Bridge.
No, but we are so very grateful for his expertise. And he's been, as soon as he landed, he's just like, I got to get out in the water. I don't care what the conditions are looking like. I got to get out in the water. And that's exactly what they did. They've done a number of runs in Sydney Harbor, did a little bit of surfing at the on the other side of
Manly
Beach.
Beach. Yep.
Yeah.
Called me as soon as he arrived and was like, Goalie, have you got a surfboard for me? Of course. Yeah. They definitely come here and hit the ground running and have fun and enjoy the place. And I mean, there's lots to see around Manly, and for all these people from different countries to come and experience what we have every day is it's amazing. And then when we visit their countries, they obviously return the favour, which is awesome to see.
Well, you know what? When it does come down to visiting other countries, we want to invite you to please come on by and visit us via Hawaiian Airlines. This is a great way to do it. Hawaiian Airlines does fly to and from Sydney every single day.
Yes, they
every
do.
day, every day of the week, 4 times a week from Brisbane.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to experience the lie flat. Have you had a chance to experience the lie flat?
No, I haven't. My wife has.
Oh
I haven't.
my gosh,
Yes.
the lie flat international business class, you cannot beat this. It literally, the seats literally lie flat. You can crash out and we're looking at what, 9-10 hours?
Yeah, it's
9,
about
10 hour
10-hour
flight,
flight, yeah.
right, to get to and from Australia to Honolulu and back.
Yep.
I mean, this is incredible, and this is a great way to fly with Hawaiian Airlines. So we appreciate them for being our presenting sponsor of the Sydney Harbor Challenge.
Yes.
I'm Lena Girl of Hawaii
I'm Brad from Sydney.
and Brad Paul.
Brad Gall from Sydney.
And we're excited to be here. We're in the middle of the mixed race. Outrigger Australia is still leading right now, and they're in first place. We've got a couple of those crews coming around Bradley's Head, and they are getting us right up into there. I'm waiting for that picturesque moment of the Sydney Harbor Bridge.
Yep.
When we're going to be coming up to that.
Hopefully
and I
we can
think
see it
are.
through the rain.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we'd like to bring up that animated map so that you can kind of see what it is that our paddlers are going through. We launched from Manly right here along the wharf at Manly. And coming down, we got a chance to see literally Outrigger Australia pull away from the rest of the pack at this point.
They had a commanding lead straight off the start, and that was really interesting. They backed themselves, they've gone out, they've extended that lead, and now they should be coming closer to the Harbour Bridge turning point. But as you can see, the course just takes them from point to point in a general straight line up until Bradley's Head, which sticks right out in the middle there. And then there's a few shallow sections to contend with, leaning back in, and then they should see the harbour bridge, which is the turning point. And they know the crews are then halfway, and they can just gun it back home.
Right. So at about this point when they were turning Bradley's head, of course, Outrigger Australia, commanding lead right there, but you were talking about those shallow spots, and that's where we experienced some of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's some crews there that obviously don't paddle in these waters every day, and there are some shallow spots when you turn in, and they can come up on you and they can just like creep up straight away. So, I mean, that's just another element of racing, and people are going to take that in consideration. And I mean, you've got a lot of boats following other boats, and you know, if you have one come a cropper on the rocks, then you're going to learn from it pretty quick.
Absolutely. In fact, we just got word that Outrigger Australia is getting to the point where they're just coming up to the Sydney Opera House. They're starting to see it from the distance. And then, of course, as we're tracing back, coming back around this area, this is where we're going to get a little bit of the help from the wind. Is that correct?
Yeah, the crews will turn, and it'll be a little bit what we call A-framing, where they turn around and there's going to be chop everywhere, but they're going to start to have the wind mainly from Bradley's Head back, but they'll have a bit of assistance leading into Bradley's Head too. So the pace should pick up. You'll see the cadence or the stroke rate of the paddlers. That will change as the conditions change. Yeah, so that's when as the real test comes in, and Outrigger Australia are out there doing it well.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. In fact, we want to be able to check out some other great things that are happening out there in the water with Kala'i Miller, Ocean Paddler TV. He's been working it really hard out there, and hopefully playing it safe at the same time.
Yeah.
Playing it safe at the same time. But we are, yes, in the middle of our mixed race. This is the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. And, looks like we've got number 52. We are looking at Bondi.
Oh, yeah, they're just over the
Look, we also have a big crowd of viewers here, and they're going crazy about Bondi. They're big supporters of Bondi.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they are definitely pushing hard. We're getting an opportunity to check out some of the water here, and I wish we were able to turn cameras just so that you can see some of the action that's actually happening right here on shore. A lot of these paddlers are waiting to get into the water with their own teams for the women's and the men's races, but they are cheering on their brothers and sisters who are out there in the water right now.
Great to see that camaraderie, and also I think they're getting a little bit of insight into what they're in for in the races to come. So it's good to have this footage, and you know, it's great to see that the competitors are here lining up, backing up their fellow teammates.
Mm-hmm. No, you know, I've always wanted to. I've always been interested in the dynamic that happens in the boat and how important every single player is when they're in the boat. Now, you are a paddleboard champion, so that's just you on your board. I mean, what is it that you're going? What's going through your mind when it's just kilometers and kilometers before you reach your destination? What kind of things do you have that keep you focused and keep you going?
I think you're thinking about your stroke and technique, and then how far you've got to go over that distance that you're racing. And there's a few things, like some people do some funny things. I concentrate on not making mistakes and you know, keeping your mind on the job, because as you fatigue, it's actually quite easy to let your mind wander.
Right.
And if you have one person in a crew of 6 people and their mind's wandering, I mean, it takes the rhythm out of the boat, and you can feel it. So,
yeah, absolutely. And it can actually be detrimental, right?
Yes.
It can be detrimental to the team in regards to the rhythm and the cadence that you've got setting. If you're just kind of like do. Right?
Yeah. So it's important to stay in as a team and keep that concentration. And I'm really new to this sport, but it's up to, you know, one person in the team to, you know, keep that morale up and keep everyone's spirits high, and, you know, through the tough water that they're paddling in before, to get through that, and then they know that the reward's just around the corner. They can turn and come back with that. So, yeah, as we can see now, it looks like they're coming up to the Harbour Bridge, and that's...
Yeah, and I'm seeing that we're looking at our leaders right now. Outrigger Australia, again, with that, exactly what Kala'i said, that confident lead.
Yeah.
But we're also getting word that the Tahitians are starting to creep up on that and starting to take advantage of that. Where, as you can see on camera, we're getting into the more populated parts of Sydney Harbor in
Yeah.
regards to getting closer to the bridge, coming up and seeing just the tip of that Sydney Opera House. And I think for a lot of the paddlers, that's kind of like it's not the end, because they do have to come back
Yeah.
and come back around, but
So
it's kind of
definitely.
like this is that point that we're looking forward to.
Yeah.
And there you go, we're seeing a little bit of the bridge there.
There'll definitely be some heads turning and looking around.
It happens every year.
Their mind's on the game, and they know what they're doing, and they're up front, and they're doing a real fine job of it. I think as you turn this corner here and then see the Harbour Bridge, you know that your halfway is coming up, and you're kind of testing your energy levels and seeing what's left in the tank, and you're going to be lifting the team and say, hey guys, let's bring it home. And you got the rewards as you come from Bradley's Head back, so it's everything they can do to use their energy levels to get there.
Right. Now it looks like our Tahitian crew, which were in 4th place a little while ago, have now taken over the 3rd place lead. And very, very steady. What do you think about that stroke?
Yeah, I mean, the Tahitians, like Jimmy said, they take it to the next level. It's no surprise to me to see them come through like that. They're accomplished paddlers, and I wouldn't be surprised if they'll be challenging second.
It looks like they are coming up just a bit.
Come back to surf, so yeah.
This is some interesting stuff. I'm happy to see them taking that lead. Of course, Australia has dominated in this particular race.
Yes.
Most especially northern beaches. But this time around, it's Outrigger Australia that's starting to take over. This is our 4th place boat, just making that turn. And I noticed they turn a little wide.
Yeah, they've come wide. Their crews opted to come wide, and obviously there must be some bump running off that Bradley's Head, and they've run out with that. The crews are going to take some different options. There's also some shallow water they probably wanted to avoid near that marker point.
Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. We are here. I'm Lena Girl from Hawaii, Brad Gall of Australia, doing your in-studio color commentary as well. We've got on the boat, on our escort boat, that is Kala'i Miller of Ocean Paddler TV, along with our camera crews that are helping you catch this action live right now in Sydney Harbor. We're looking at the mixed race. We've got 2 more races to follow with women's as well as the men's. And we're so grateful for such incredible technology that allows us to literally bring you out there on the water to show exactly what it is that they're going through. Visible conditions for visibility are not so great when you're out there in that open area, but as you're coming along and getting closer into Sydney Harbor Bridge, we're starting to see our teams. I believe this is 6th place right now, is what we're looking at.
Interesting to see how they hug the marker point.
Right, some of them are hugging the marker point, and others are just kind of swinging wide.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's probably going to affect their time and in regards to how well they move going out. Now, we've got people that are standing on shore. They brought out umbrellas, parkas, hats. It's cold, it's chilly. We're looking at 66 degrees Fahrenheit. I believe that's about 21 degrees Celsius.
Around that.
So really cold, and that's just on the land. So
Yeah.
on the water, what are we looking at? At least a 5-degree drop in Fahrenheit, at least.
Yeah.
Correct?
I mean, you don't notice it that much when you're working so hard, but definitely there'll be a drop in temperature out there. I'm sure Kalai will be feeling that.
Oh yeah, he's feeling that. I'm almost certain of that. And we are so very grateful for them bringing us some of that video. I'd love to get to Kalai in just a little bit as we are getting closer to Sydney Harbor Bridge to see some of those guys turn the can there at Luna
Yeah.
Park. But this is the Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. And we'll be back with more. We're going to take a short commercial break. And by the time we get back, we'll start seeing some more of those iconic landmarks that make Sydney Harbor, Sydney Harbor. The Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. We are broadcasting live, webcasting live at sydneyharborchallenge.sydney. Brad Gall of Australia. I'm Lena Girl with Hawaii. And we'll be right back in just a little bit.
The Sydney Harbor Challenge is presented by Hawaiian Airlines. Supported by Destination New South Wales. Find out more at sydney.com. And brought to you in part by these fine supporting sponsors.
The spirit of our home lives in moments like these. Hawaiian Airlines. Hawaii flies with us.
Hi, welcome back to our Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. I'm Lena Girl from Hawaii.
I'm Brad Gold from Sydney.
And we are watching the action right now of the mixed race. This is one of 3 races happening here for our 4th annual Sydney Harbor Challenge. Pretty exciting because our teams are all starting to come up to the Sydney Harbor Bridge. And we're very grateful to have Ocean Paddler TV catching a lot of that live action right here from the boat. Kala'i Miller is out there, and we've gotten a chance to talk with him a number of times. Hopefully we'll be able to see what that action is from the water. Our leaders right now in the water.
Yeah, Outrigger Australia. They should be very close to the coat hanger, we call it.
Is that what's the coat hanger?
The
What's
Harbour
that?
Bridge.
Oh, that's your iconic landmark.
Yeah, so,
you don't call that a coat hanger?
Well, either that or coming up near Blues Point, so which is halfway. So I bet you they're looking forward to getting the wind behind them and getting some of that assistance now to come home. The hard work upwind is done, and they get to ride the bumps back.
Now, I wanted to ask, because Sydney Harbor is your home. This is where you train. This is where you compete. This particular wind that you folks are talking about, the southerly wind that they were kind of going into to begin with, and then is we assume is going to assist them coming back. Is this a natural wind? Does this happen all the time in Sydney, or is it just this particular storm conditions that have set it up that way?
Yeah, I mean, summer's generally nor'east wind.
Okay.
Southerly generally brings the bad weather, as we can see.
Right.
And there can be some strong winds. A lot of our major storms will come out of there, and we're seeing a fair bit of that. But I think we're going to cross now to Kala'i. He's out on the water.
Kala'i, how's things going out there?
All right, we're here at the turn. This marks the halfway point of this race. You can see it looks like our 5th place boat taking a turn here. We're right at Luna Park in Sydney, and of course you can see the Sydney Harbor Bridge. Off to our right a little bit is the beautiful Sydney Opera House. So our crews are making this turn here on our yellow Hawaiian Airlines buoy, and looks pretty smooth. Haven't had much of a mishap. Some goings on in the top pack. That lead crew from Australian Outrigger just seems to be opening up the gap more and more and more in the rest of the field. Our 2nd place crew is hanging tough, but interestingly enough, a crew which seems to my eye to be a Tahitian crew has crept up from about maybe as far back as 6th or 7th place near the start and have worked their way up into 3rd place, and they're putting a bit of heat on that 2nd place crew. This is kind of an interesting point in the race where you're doing this 180-degree turn, which allows you to kind of see how close the crews are behind you. And for a lot of paddlers like our 1st place gang, they're saying, okay, I got a little bit of breathing room, we got a comfortable lead here. For others, they're maybe start realizing, holy mackerel, there's some crews hunting me down right behind us. So we are looking at this being kind of a point that's going to change not only a lot there, but also for the conditions. They're going to be working back up with the weather on their right-hand side, but as soon as they make that turn down towards Manly Cove as they pass Bradley's Head, hopefully there might be a little bit of downwind surfing, and maybe our more experienced, more capable steersmen and crews will be able to make some headway, and we should have some changing of position at that point. So we're looking forward to the second half of this mixed race. Again, crews continuing to turn here at our buoy right next to Luna Park, amusement park here, and the conditions have kind of been consistent. Seems like the wind might be dropping off just a hair, especially in here, deeper into Sydney Harbor. So it's dropping off. It's a little flatter here, a little more what they're expecting. But as they come back towards that Bradley's Head, George's Head, down into Middle Head, over there near the entrance of the harbor, the seaward entrance of the harbor, it'll probably be still rough again. But hopefully this time, stuff that they can use as they head back to Manly Cove. So we're going to stay here at the turn for just a little bit. It is chilly out here. Teeth are chattering. But, hey, these guys are working hard in our canoes right now, and we're happy to be bringing you live coverage of the Sydney Harbor Challenge. Again, we're right here under the beautiful Sydney Harbor Bridge at our turn, and coming up to the second half of the mixed race.
Thank you so much, Kala'i, for being with us and being out there on the water. That is some incredible footage and some incredible video of our teams turning the can right there under Sydney Harbor Bridge.
Pretty iconic landmarks in the background there.
Absolutely, and we're very grateful to have, this is like literally one of our main coordinators here. If not for him, no Sydney Harbor Challenge. It doesn't exist. We want to say a very big aloha to Mike Mills. Tom, how you doing, Mike?
Yeah, really good, really good. We're having a tough day with the weather here, but you know what? The racing is proving to be good, and the cream's rising to the top, as they say, and we've got a good race going on. It's really good to see a Tahitian crew up there in the mixed race. Which
Absolutely.
Previously, we haven't had an international crew perform in a mixed race, so that's really exciting.
Absolutely, and we're excited. I know that we had a little bit of a delay in the race, but when we got a chance to talk story a little earlier, you said it's going to happen no matter what, right?
Yeah.
And you folks have made it happen. Are you going to be going out and racing as well a little later on?
I was scheduled to race until I had a slight problem with my hand this morning, so I've got some stitches in my index finger, and so I'm out for the men's race today.
Oh man! So is Brad going to jump in your seat then?
No, I've got a really good reserve steerer, and I shouldn't really call him reserve, but Mitch Olds is taking my place. So it's probably, if anything, let's call it a step up for my crew.
Absolutely. We've been watching this race, Brad and I, and we noticed that Northern Beaches in the past 3 years was the team to beat. And they are not. We don't see them in the top three this time around.
No, and that is a little bit of a surprise. Like Northern Beaches is always they focus a little bit on the mixed division, and probably in Australia, probably for the last 10 years, have been very strong in the mix. So
absolutely,
especially here. Like this is their backyard. I mean, they train in these conditions. They know these conditions. They know the course. So they've had that advantage in the past. But this year, it's time for other teams to come up and come through, which is great. That's what racing's all about. And the fact that someone that can just jump in and take off Mike's spot in the boat, it just shows the camaraderie and how everyone just jumps in with the outrigger and just say, let's make it work.
Fantastic. In fact, we just saw Newcastle turn the can a little earlier right now. A lot of them are doing this. And at this point, this is when we're going to start getting a little bit of assist from the wind. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's still, where the course is, it's kind of almost a J shape. So the next kind of 3 kilometres back past the Opera House there, we're going to be looking towards basically a crosswind until we get again to Bradley's Head. And then we should have some pretty good assistance actually for the skilled crews.
A good straight shot back from there.
And it won't be big Molokai surf riding.
Right, but it might be some nice swells.
Yeah,
we'll see some good action out there.
Yeah, the skilled steerers will be able to link up little ones there the whole way back to the finish line. So it'll be quite fast on that last kind of 5K stretch.
Now, Mike, it's great to have you here because you can give us the insight on what happens behind the scenes. A lot of times when we're watching paddling races like this, of course, it really is all about the paddlers, the action in the water, what we're looking at in the way of weather conditions, water conditions. But in regards to being someone who coordinates a race, race like this. How did you folks choose this particular course?
Yeah, well, we were originally looking for something to showcase Australia. Okay, so Sydney being one of our major areas, and
Absolutely.
and having such a beautiful waterway, we're trying to attract sponsors. We're trying to make a race that is of world standard and exciting, and it's a very difficult area to get
Clearances and permissions, correct?
And they're layer upon layer. I've got to
right.
tell you.
It's not every day you can paddle under the harbour bridge. eh?
No.
So it's a kind of, it's exciting for us to run it even, it takes, believe it or not, 14 months
To prepare.
to get the approvals.
14. So you had to set up for next year already.
Yeah, we've already got the approvals in for next year, and it's, like I say, there was probably 5 layers of approvals just to where you're paddling under that bridge there now.
Right.
There's 5 different bodies that we have to go, okay, we're all good with this?
And all of them need to approve before this can even happen.
And to be honest, to be really good with the authorities, they are extremely happy that we're here. It's not like a punish. They're not going, oh, we'll let you go. They're going, no, this is what they understand that this is a great thing for the state. Destinations New South Wales, who is the body that helps the tourism in New South Wales from the government, have got heavily behind us here, and they're pumping this race. The community outside of our paddling community have really honoured us with the backing, a very heavy backing to get this to happen.
Well, you can see we are looking at some of the most iconic points of Sydney. We're looking at Luna Park right here. We're paddling under the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Of course, we're coming up upon the Sydney Opera House. We're paddling past Taronga Zoo. I mean, these are all of the iconic landmarks of Sydney. So I imagine a course like this, while difficult to put together and all the permissions, really does help so many people. This is a win-win situation all around.
Yeah.
This gives paddlers an incredible opportunity to fly to, one of the countries that have the greatest watermen come out of this country. And for them to be able to come and they say, not only did they paddle in the Sydney Harbour Challenge, but they competed in the Sydney Harbour Challenge, So there's a lot of win-win with a particular race like this.
Yeah, and like for the competitors, seriously, if you wanted to do a land-based tour of what they're doing in the boat today, it'd be 5 hours driving.
Oh, yeah.
In this city. It's a big, busy city, and to get to see, the Opera House and, all the stuff that's on that route, man, you're going to be in the car all day trying to find a park. So this is by far the easiest way to take in, if you're thinking about coming to Sydney, get here for this race. It's
an awesome way to showcase the harbour and involve a competition, and then bring all these guys together later for a beer. I mean, there's no other better way of doing it, really.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it's awesome to be able to speak with people who are proud of where they're from and are proudly showcasing where they're from. It's the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. We're talking story with one of our top coordinators of this particular race. This is the 4th annual, and his name is Mike Mills-Tom. There was a challenge put out when the first race happened that you folks would eventually get to 100 crews. We started that first race with just under 90 crews, and now we're talking 150.
Yeah.
And it just looks like this race is just going to grow.
Yeah, like it's, like I say, you've got to follow your passion, and for me, I can't do ordinary.
It has to always be extraordinary.
Yeah. If it's going to be ordinary, I'm not getting out of bed.
I gotcha. But I guess my question is that now we're looking. We've expanded the amount of teams from 80 to 150 in just 4 years' time, or 3 years' time rather. Can this particular race expand more?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, do we have an infrastructure that can support the upcoming years' expansion for the Sydney Harbour Challenge?
Yeah, look, with the current licenses that we've got, we can handle 300, no worries.
What?
Yeah,
Let's
so
double it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah, so we can get that to happen. Along with our paddling fraternity, we're getting better at the infrastructure side of things. this year's a little bit more difficult with the weather, but that's something that we had to learn anyway. So, we had a little bit of a restriction with the daylight this morning, setting the course, so we had to put the race start back a little bit because it was cloudy and we're not allowed on the harbour until we have enough daylight. So there's things. Well, I mean, we're playing an outdoor sport. It's I can't.
It happens.
I can't turn the lights on.
I mean, you can turn that around to a positive, and you've got the athletes love it out there. I mean, you've got nearly every condition possible. You've got upwind, downwind, cross chop, bit of current. It's a mixed bag, and so I think it's not so good for the organisers or the spectators or everything. Although they're here and dedicated with their raincoats on, but
our spectators are here. They haven't
we
left.
saw the Bondi crew going off over there and everything. So I mean. It makes it harder for these guys to put on such a great event, and they do a bloody good job of it.
Absolutely.
And, I think as athletes, the racing part is just the smallest part of the whole thing. But it's great to come here and do this, and to see so many internationals come. I think with the goal of 300 and the support that these guys have, I think I can see that definitely happening.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Look, I think it will. We've just. With the help of Hawaiian, the thing has just rocketed forward. And, sometimes as a race organiser, we've got to sell the sizzle rather than the sausage. And
well, there's a lot of sizzle going on right here.
Yeah, and
especially with today's weather.
Yeah.
Lots of sizzle. And I got to tell you honestly, when you look at adverse conditions like this, and then you come back the next year and we've got beautiful conditions, everybody's going to talk about this is a walk in the park. Remember last year?
Yeah. You should have been here yesterday.
You should have been here yesterday.
It's a cracker over there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a winner. The weekend's a winner.
Yes. Oh, yes. Mike Mills, Tom Bradlaugh. I'm Lena Girl of Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. We are in the midst right now. Our teams have turned the can. Yeah. And I think that's the toughest thing is when you're paddling and you see the team going back past you. Yeah. I can't imagine what that feels like. You're like, oh, come on, you guys, pull.
It's actually quite funny that there's a lot of crews there's a lot of mates in this sport, and there's a lot of crews that are, sectioning out and helping other crews out and going in other crews. So as you pass in, there's a lot of camaraderie. There's a lot of yelling out at the other crews and, come on, we're coming down, we're going to catch you and all this. So there's a lot of talk out there on the water.
Right, absolutely. But we have the bulk of our teams have already moved themselves out of that area near Luna Park and the Opera House. They are now starting to head back. We're coming probably around...
probably close to Cremorne Point, in between Cremorne Point and coming out to the Bradley's Head turn.
Yeah, they're heading back towards the zoo there now.
Yeah.
That's a quite a difficult section today because it's basically crosswind.
Right.
And any of the wind swell that will be helping them will actually be running under the boat sideways. So
that's what we were seeing when they were first getting in there.
Yeah. On the way up, crews. It's always good to look out for because you can lift that armour on with the side chop and it can pull it, and it can happen to some really good crews. And I suppose with the testing conditions now they're turning and it's on the left side. I think they'll be looking to get washes and runs and just milking everything they can.
Mm-hmm. As we just seen there, they just paddled through a large ferry wash. Now, if these guys are smart, they'll get to the other side of the ferry wash and ride that ferry wash towards the zoo. So there's still stuff to do here for the smart steerers.
Oh yeah, I believe we're looking at. I think that's Mission Beach.
Yeah, that is Mission
Beach.
Is
that we're looking there on our left, and those conditions haven't changed much in the way of weather-wise. It's still very gray out, and Kalei Miller did report to us that the wind has died down just a hair. But other than that, from what I understand, once we start to come around Badley's Head, is that when we start getting that nice push from the wind?
Yeah, you get a bit more push, and then you're riding point from point, and then it'll be a straight hole shot really from the park there all the way back to the finish. But it still looks like the team out in front are doing it real well, Outrigger Australia. Hopefully we'll cross to Kalei soon and have a look at how they're going.
Absolutely. Just so that you understand, Northern Beaches was the team to beat. In fact, if we can get some of those race results up, this is our 4th annual Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. And in the last 4 years, you can see Northern Beaches, Masters and Northern Beaches Open were the dominating teams for this particular race. Cap Coast as well, Gold Coast, Brisbane, and Port Macquarie. But right now, it looks like none of these guys are in the top 3 contention.
No, I mean, as I said before, I think some of these guys have raced and then gone away and said, I'm really going to put in the hard yards and come back next year all guns blazing. And that's what makes the event so special.
Oh, yeah.
One of the other things that we have as a factor this year also is that AOCRA, the Australian Canoe Racing Association, what we've got going on here is also a selection race for another international race in Tahiti this year.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
So the International VAR have this year, for the first time, got a World Championship marathon iron race.
Going on.
Yeah, for roughly 25 kilometres. Now, everyone that is worldwide that is involved with the International VAR are running selection races. And you're only allowed one crew. Yeah.
And this is one of our selection races.
Yeah. So
now,
sometimes what's happened there, and I think what's happened there this time, that we've maybe loaded the men's and women's crews to get selection.
Awesome.
And maybe that's changed the dynamic of the mixed race a little.
I think so.
Yeah.
Where they may be saving those particular paddlers for those men's and women's races so that they can meet those qualifiers.
That's right, because we don't have a mixed race at Worlds at Tahiti. We only have men's and women's. Yes.
Got it. So we've got Outrigger Australia right now in the lead. This is boat number 21, and we understand they're moving at about 8 knots on the water. And they've got We've said words like comfortable and confident and commanding lead, and they're still keeping that lead.
They look comfortable. They're doing a real good job. They're out there. They answered all our questions. They took it out at the start, and they turn that can. They come back, and they're just extending the lead. So,
but it's nice to understand that dynamic, Mike, in regards to why we might not be seeing some of these players from the last 3 years. Is because they've now split their teams so that they can get some of their top paddlers in the men's and the women's races to meet those qualifiers, not just for the IVF in Tahiti, but also for the Molokai Ihoe and the Navahine Okekai, brought to you by Hawaiian Airlines.
That's right. And, more and more, this race is becoming the pinnacle in Australia.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's not only are we attracting a great international field, but Australia's got it into their heads that, hey, man, this is the one to win.
This is where we need to be.
We need to be on this one.
Right, because this is what's going to get us to the next step.
The rewards are coming from this race.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Well, that I think is that just goes to show how fantastic a job that you, along with Mark Forbes, Sam Williams, have done in regards to, in just the last 4 years, making this the race that people have to be in order to get to these incredible qualifiers.
Yeah, and this race has dramatically changed outrigging in Australia. Dramatically. I can't, I know I run the thing, but you know what? It really has changed the
I think
shape.
it's important to be proud of it.
Yeah.
Got paddleboarders like me involved in it.
You're right. When we first sat down, he was just like, I only paddleboard. I'm not. But now I think now you're going to be out there in the water more often for Sydney Harbor Challenge, huh?
Yeah. Just to reiterate on what Mike's gone over, like the work I live with Sam, and the work and hours that these guys put into this is phenomenal. And I mean, a lot of athletes just come along and grab a boat and go out there and paddle, but like the organisation and everything goes. It is a full 14 months.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of time and effort, and and it takes a lot to put something like this on.
Yeah, and it's awesome to have that background. I think people need to understand what it takes to put on something of this scope.
Yeah.
Especially when we have teams flying in and from all around the world to compete. So very, very grateful to be able to work with you, Mike.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, it's about the athlete.
Absolutely. In fact, we're going to kick to Kala'i Miller right now, find out how our athletes are doing in the water.
Welcome back to the Sydney Harbor Challenge. We're out here in the middle of the harbor looking at what's for our top crews. They're coming into the last quarter of today's race. They got about another 3 miles, about another 5K to the finish. This is, I believe, our 6th place boat passing Bradley's Head here. We had a great turn down next to Luna Park at our buoy there under the ever breathtaking bridge and Opera House. But now what's happened is these crews are, after this point, getting to turn pretty much downwind. We were up with our lead boat earlier. You were to see our green canoe from Outrigger, Australia. That was a shot we had just a couple of minutes ago. They were, after this turn, able to increase their speed by as much as 1.5 knots to 2 knots, which is pretty significant. Heading up into this wind, this initial part of the course, they were traveling probably in the 6.5 knot range, and we got them at sometimes upwards of 8 knots after they made this turn. So for those crews that have, little bumpy here, sorry about that. For those crews that have, firstly, got some fuel left in the tank, secondly, have the ability to get on some of these bumps and really surf and open up their stroke and kind of start getting that downwind section going here, they're going to be able to capitalize on this. That first place crew from Outrigger, Australia continues to hold a very strong lead. We got the boat from Northcliffe in 2nd place, and what is that yellow and white canoe with, I believe, Tahitian paddlers. They are into now into 3rd place pretty steadily. So we got a ton of boat traffic out here in this pass area, and that's one of the things, other than just the weather, the rough ocean due to the wind with, there's a ton of boat traffic. Like right now, it's going to get bumpy again for us. So if your screen is going up and down, we apologize, but that's just part of it. So in a nutshell, the first half of this race, a lot of work. As soon as they make the turn on the buoy, there's this it's a little calmer section until they hit Bradley's Head here. And from this point down back into Manly Cove, hopefully they'll be able to get some surf. So it's been a good times. We're getting a lot of crews here. It was pretty clean at the turning buoy. We didn't happen to witness any contact of canoes. Everybody was very well behaved at that turn buoy, making room for each other. So that's always a good thing. Everybody's playing nice and fair. But now at this point, we're going to see these crews start to accelerate as they head into Manly. And for those top crews are usually the ones that can surf the best. It should be the most fun and quickest part of their race. So they'll be looking for some relief when they hit the sands at Manly Cove. So we're going to stay here at Bradley's Head a minute more, and then we're going to be zooming forward and catching up with our lead boat from Outrigger, Australia as they pass Middle Head and come down into that section of Sydney Harbor. Otherwise, it's been a pretty clean race. A lot of traffic up here, a lot of bumps, a lot of rough, but much to their credit, these steersmen, these crews are able to keep their canoes upright at this point, and yeah, it's looking good. It's not your typical sunny day here in Sydney, Australia, but just still a great day for canoe racing. Nobody's getting too hot out there, and these guys and gals are really pounding out here in our mixed race. Looking forward to the rest of the day. We're going to have our women's race coming up shortly after the conclusion of this race, and then, of course, finishing off with our men's race later on in the day. So stick with us. We'll be here on live stream from really Australia's premier race, the Hawaiian Airlines Sydney Harbor Challenge. Stick with us for our live coverage, and we'll be reporting to you with the lead boat coming up shortly. Mahalo.
Thank you so much, Kala'i Miller of Ocean Paddler TV. He's out there with the Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. You can see in the distance one of our Manly Wharf ferries is just kind of bouncing around out there. And
just a good indicator if a boat that big is getting bouncing around like that there's some chop out there.
Oh yeah, what's happening, the kind of action that's happening for our paddlers. I'm Lena Girl with Hawaii. This is Brad Gall of Australia. Mike Mills-Tom is one of our main coordinators of this particular Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. 4 years running, and it has been incredible. Such an incredible run. And we're just in the middle of the mixed race right now.
Yeah. And you see there with the ferry. So we're just kind of turned Bradley's head. You know what? The rough ocean guys are going to start coming into their own now. So we're starting to pick up the swell from the entrance of the main harbour, and it reverberates around in there on the cliff walls, and then we've got the wind over the top of that.
There.
So now's the time when, you know, you've really got to start itching up on those skills. Like these guys, there's stuff there to catch there now, and it's not just work. It's smart work now.
Right. Now we're going to have to start using our conditions to really push ahead.
Yeah, and you know, there's a couple of spots there that guys, you know, you can get 100-metre gaps just with one or two lifts.
Just like that.
Yeah. So it's quite good. You can see that boat there, just got a little lift. There'll be some big boat wash. It's just getting into the rough area now. So I reckon, you know, in the next 10 minutes or so, some of the footage is going to show us nose dropping there now. See the steersman just controlling it on the run. There's work there to be done, and a bit of benefit for the extra work to lift.
And I believe we're looking at the lakes. Is this our lakes crew? Number 24, the lakes. But as we were watching these guys, you could see in some of the earlier footage as well, we were contending with other vessels out there in the water, along with the Manly Wharf ferry. We had a massive cruise ship that we had to circumvent, along with other vessels in the water. So you understand that Sydney Harbour Challenge, part of the challenge is to share the waters with other vessels that are out there, and of course to be able to navigate with water conditions, with weather conditions. It's pretty awesome. These guys have got a little bit of a like you said, a lift that's happening up there.
Yeah, they're running these swells quite well. You can see they've got slight change of pace when they get a lift, and the steersman back there working quite hard to keep everyone in those what we call troughs. They're only small because the chops are quite close together, but there is a lot of gain to be had, as Mike said.
Yeah, anything you can work to get a bit of increase in your boat speed.
Absolutely.
You know, it just is. Races aren't won in 100-metre chunks. They're won an inch at a time, you know,
right.
and you'll find that the top crews just inch away. There's not one point where they go, wow, how'd you do that? You know, the good crews just keep inching away at you.
And you know, a part of that technique in being able to do some of this rough water work, especially with the conditions, a lot of that is experience.
Absolutely.
Having the crew being out in the water and being out in the water more often.
Yep. You know, one of the major fall downs of novice crews is that when the water's rough, they fall to pieces, you know.
Right.
So when I say they fall to pieces, they lose the coordination between
their
the paddlers,
their cadence, the communication between the six.
Yeah, and especially in what I call short water, which is what we have in the harbour. Well,
short water.
Yeah, so the lumps are real close together. They're quite tricky to get
choppy.
to get the boat to work. Whereas if you've got a big ocean swell, you've got more time to prepare. You can line the thing up easy.
You see it coming, you can line yourself up for it, right?
But this is quite difficult and technically quite hard to get to go well.
Now we're looking at BRD. Are you familiar with this team, BRD?
Yeah, they're out of Brisbane.
Senior Masters.
Yeah, they're primarily, the club basically started from a flat water kind of club, but they about 10 years ago ventured out and got some outrigger canoes, and they've had a couple of really strong people to get the club going, and it's one of the strongest clubs in Brisbane now. It's just like, for me, we haven't had outrigging in our blood for, you know, thousands of years.
Right.
But
and this is relatively a new sport for Australia.
Yeah, like in the big scheme of things, if you go back to kind of 1985, well, there was nothing, you know what I mean? Yeah, so in Hawaiian terms, you know, we're Johnny.
It's part of the culture.
Yeah.
It's part of the culture.
So,
but I love that you folks are building this culture
yes.
of outrigger canoeing. And you know, I know that there's a team called the Dam because they actually train on a dam water, right? The dam. Yep. And then you have a team like this, BRD, coming out of Brisbane, where they train in mostly flat water.
Yep.
So knowing that how they train and then putting them out here in conditions like this, where you're going to see a little bit of a struggle.
Yes,
correct?
that's right. And, we see, like, as a race director, I run a number of races, you'll see certain races suit certain clubs because that's where they basically train.
Right.
So
The waters they're familiar with.
That's right. And, that's the challenge for our sport, is to make sure that we all increase our skill levels at all the time.
Mm-hmm. Now, this team that we're seeing right now on screen, I believe this is Rockingham. And Rockingham from Perth.
From Perth, yeah.
So-
well, even a little further than Perth, like 3 hours south of Perth. So
That's even farther away from Sydney?
Yeah, about 35 hours drive.
Oh, about. I think that's like driving from California to New York twice, I think.
It's about as far as LA to New York. There's a fair commitment even from the Aussies to make this. When you have a look at even how far away Cairns
Yes,
is,
Cairns, all the way up north.
It's the best part of 3,200 mile. That's a damn long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, when these teams are coming, especially in the men's and women's, they're coming to compete hard, not only for the inaugural that's coming up in Tahiti, but also the Molokai Ihoi and the Navahine Okekai, because they'll be, with the Navahine Okekai and the Molokai Ihoi, they'll receive the flights from Hawaiian Airlines. Big mahalo to Hawaiian Airlines, our presenting sponsor. And that right there is a whole chunk of change that would help get an Australian crew to Hawaii to compete.
Sure, like it's such a
Massive help.
it's such a massive bonus to kind of win that. But the other thing is, I know everyone says it's not always about winning, but it really isn't, because
just to be here,
because
and be a part.
If you're next to people that are trying that hard to win, it's like, what?
It's infectious.
If you sleep with dogs, you get fleas, So I want to sleep with good dogs and get good fleas.
No, you want to sleep with clean dogs and get no fleas. Come on, Mike. But we just had a little peek there at Northcliffe. Northcliffe is our number 2 right now, behind Outrigger Australia in that green boat. We've been watching them. They've literally led the course the entire way.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, and we just saw Northcliffe get a good lift off a couple there. So interesting to see where those Tahitians are now, because those conditions that I would expect them to lift now and make some moves. So if we get across to Kalai and we can see where they are, that would be, I'd be interested.
That would be fantastic, especially if we're coming around Bradley's Head and passing that point right there. I think that's where we're going to start getting a lot of that nice swell action.
Those top crews are in the money-making part of the race. Like, there'll be gaps made now for sure that'll be cemented that you can't come back from.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So this is where we're going to start seeing some really, really good play in regards to teamwork. Teamwork, technique. This is our lead right now. This is Outrigger Australia. We got our Wahine sitting up there in seat number 1. She's setting that stroke rhythm. And they've just been very consistent the entire way.
The timing's great. They're really showing the way here. And as we saw, with the boats coming upwind, they were more in line and together. And when you got this downwind, it tends to stagger the boats. And the boats that run better on the bumps and they've got the energy to carry those bumps through,
you see them start to pull away.
Yeah, you can see, like Mike said before, you can see them actually lift on these bumps. And just 2 good bumps can give you a good 100 metres, and that's really hard to make up.
Yep, and that could be the deciding factor on who takes this race.
Yeah, it's like when you're running into the wind, say you're 10 seconds behind at the buoy, and you're going into the wind. We're doing 6 knots into the wind. You turn, the other person immediately bumps up to 10 knots, so the gap goes from
20 seconds.
Yeah, it might be like 40 metres. It's just next. You come around the buoy and there's 150 metres, and it's just like, man, how are we going to pick that? You just can't pick it back up.
Well, we're going to try and see our teams pick this back up as we are coming into our final leg of this particular race. Mike Mills, Tom, Brad Gall, I'm Lena Girl right here. It's the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. We'll be right back.
The Sydney Harbor Challenge is presented by Hawaiian Airlines. Supported by Destination New South Wales. Find out more at sydney.com. And brought to you in part by these fine supporting sponsors.
The spirit of our home lives in moments like these. Hawaiian Airlines. Hawaii flies with us.
Welcome back to the Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. I'm Lena Girl of Hawaii.
I'm Brad Gold from Sydney.
And we want to say thank you so much for joining us. Very big mahalo to our incredible sponsors. Of course, Hawaiian Airlines, who have actually brought two of the crews down here to compete. Hawaiian Airlines own Team Kokua as well as the Red Bull Va'a. We'll be seeing that in the men's race coming up a little later. I almost got there. Also want to say a very big aloha to Destination New South Wales as well as the Manly Council for allowing us to be here and to be able to showcase all of the beautiful things about Sydney. Now, we are right here watching team number 29. We're looking at Hekili. This is our Hekili Masters team. And we at this point, we are going toward the latter part of our race. We are wanting to get to the point where we're rounding off Bradley's Head because that's where we're going to start seeing a lot of action in the water. Is that correct, Brad?
Yeah, so from Bradley's Point back down to Mossman, it'll be to the sort of back quarter, and the teams will be trying to lift on anything they can from there. But then from sort of Mossman Park back to the finish is going to be a whole shot to the finish line. So as you can see, they're working as much as they can to pull on any sort of a bump. They are close together. They are going to have to work as a team together to try and pull these bumps, and they're also going to be tired. They've already paddled, 15 kilometres?
Yep, so, easily. And this is a 22K race.
Yes, so they're using whatever they got in reserve, and they're going to try their best to pick up any of those bumps and extend any kind of a lead or catch competitor in front of them.
Right. Now, the competitor to catch in this particular race is Outrigger Australia, who have pulled ahead from the get-go. I mean, this is like straight out of the...
Took out the lead and then backed themselves, and they've extended that lead. So, I mean, that's awesome to see. There's some tenacious strength going on there. So there's no slouches in these other teams. So to watch that happen was quite remarkable.
And I believe we're looking at the Tahitian team right here, as they're paddling pretty much on their own. I'm not quite sure where along the race they are, but it looks like they've got some really good consistency going there in regards to their stroke pattern.
It looks like they're a fair way out in the middle. Hard to tell with the rain and everything, but as you can see, they've got that great catch out in front, which is pretty much the Tahitians are all known for, and they're working really well.
Yes, absolutely. The Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines, and Hawaiian Airlines as our presenting sponsor is going to be offering up some incredible presents and prizes for the winners of our men's and our women's races. This is actually an opportunity not only to fly your entire team to Hawaii and back from wherever it is that you're from a Hawaiian Airlines gateway city to Hawaii and back, but also that berth in the Moloka Ihoi for our men or the Navahine o Kekai for our women. Now, are you familiar with the channel?
Yes. I'm a big fan of the channel, yes.
Yeah. And you've taken on the channel. This is Moloka Itu Oahu Paddleboard Championships, right? What was that like being in that water?
Yeah, it's surreal. It's awesome. It's a deep purple. It's really good. I love being out there. It's open ocean racing, so you got a lot of bigger bumps, and not like today.
Oh, yeah.
But they're throwing all different conditions at them today. They've got a bit of side chop, a bit of cross chop. They've got swell. They've got wind from the headwind, and then they've got a following wind. So it's good to see how these crews are negotiating all these conditions, and it's testing.
Oh, yeah. For some of the novice paddlers, this is an opportunity for them to experience a lot of action, right? They're going to gain a lot of experience just from this 122-kilometer race. I do know that in a number of the other races, we've got young guns that are going to be jumping in, where they have a mixed crew of veteran paddlers with these young 18, 19-year-olds that are going to be coming in to do some great work. So we're excited to see that. But we are looking at, again, our leader, Outrigger Australia, leads the pack right now, and we're excited to see what's happening out there in the water with Kala'i with Ocean Paddler TV. I know we earlier said this is North Cliff, but I believe, I'm just kind of taking a look there, that trying to look at a number, I'm looking at Coconuts Blair as this possible team.
So a lot of these
team
competitors come from afar, as we mentioned before, so it's hard for them to get their boats here. So what they do is they go into a boat pool, and so a lot of these boats you'll see back out in the other races. So might not necessarily be Northcliffe, but
no, I think
whoever it is, they're doing real well out there.
Yeah, and that's our number 2 team right now. They're the ones that are chasing Outrigger Australia to get down.
And the Tahitians are just coming up behind them. Oh, okay.
Absolutely. So being in the water right now, for those of you that are just tuning in on our webcast, which is live Sydney Harbor Challenge Sydney, we're looking at some very adverse storm conditions that rolled in earlier this morning, and you can just see it. I mean, just along the water, it's been pretty tough out there. But even with a 1-hour delay in the launch, we still got our mixed teams out there in the water, and they are right now tracking to come back into Manly. We are working to get Kala'i Miller back with us, Ocean Paddler TV, to get us some of that action from the water. Again, they are chasing that first boat in the lead, Outrigger Australia.
Yeah.
But we'll see who's coming in for second and third place. It looks like anything can happen out there when we have these rough conditions and with a little push of the wind.
Yeah, I mean, it's anyone's race from that last point back in the whole shot. A lot can happen there. So let's cross over to him and see shortly what's happening.
Yep, absolutely. So they're wiping the camera down, and yes, you've actually seen it, us wiping that camera lens because it's raining, the water is kicking up, the wind is picking up. It's, again, those adverse conditions are out there, and luckily enough, we here in studio, cozy and warm, Kala'i Miller out there is out battling those conditions. And we're going to be kicking to him in just a little bit. But he has been helping us to follow who's coming up in regards to those particular boats that are lined up following Outrigger Australia. Where are you at, Kala'i?
With our leader, this is Outrigger Australia. They're in first place. And as you can see, they're surfing right down into Manly Cove. Get pulled back. They're out the lead on the rest of the pack, and they are just kind of enjoying themselves right now. You can always hooting and hollering when a crew is getting some surf, but they're really rolling right down into the finish line at Manly Cove. As you can see, in behind them, they got the walls from the ocean as they come into the harbor mouth. They're kind of right here, boom, look at this. On. Look at that. Surfing down to the finish line. Beautiful stuff, gang. All right, they have a healthy lead. I would give them at least maybe half a mile on the rest of the field, at least a kilometer on the rest of the field that is just back there. And they're going to crush here in the mixed race to start our day for the Hawaiian Airlines Sydney Harbor Challenge. It was a tough race for them off of the start. A lot lot of work uphill into the wind, and as we see, the rest of the field at this point is bringing the rain in with them. We got another line of rain coming at us in the fourth round right now that the rest of the field is probably getting drenched with. So at least this crew that is from, we are literally
Getting some distortion out there again because of the weather conditions, but thank you so much to Kala'i Miller for giving us the action right there. They are literally following Outrigger Australia, and I believe that Outrigger Australia right now is running at about 8 knots.
Yeah.
They might be going a little faster when that southerlies start to really push them ahead, but they've been consistent, clean in regards to their technique and their rhythm. We've got, of course, a little bit of the swell that they're taking advantage of.
Yeah,
a little bit of that lift.
You could see them, they're running those little bumps, and they're faultless. They're really good. They're strong. It's like they've never actually plateaued or anything. They're just as strong as they were, and they took off at the start.
Absolutely. It doesn't look like they're struggling or any better or any less than when they came out. And this is really interesting. It was good to talk story with one of our race directors, Mike Mills, Tom, because we're able to get a little insight as to why, there might be a change up in the pack in regards to Northern Beaches. And there is word that Northern Beaches is kind of up there in the tops, but that because this particular race is one of the big qualifiers to lead to Molokai Ihoi, to lead to Navahine o Kekai, and now to lead to the inaugural that's happening in Tahiti, that a lot of these teams are saving their best paddlers, their strongest paddlers, their more experienced paddlers for those men's and women's races.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the goal at the end that's a huge chunk of change for a team to fly them all over there, to race in these races, and the opportunity to do so. So, for sure, crews are going to be saving their good guys to try and better their chances of winning that ultimate prize,
Right.
and go forth and experience some of the paddling over there, because it's not every day you can get a team of 6 guys together and to jump in a boat and get over there, because it can be expensive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Travel like that. And that's why we're so very grateful to have Hawaiian Airlines as our presenting sponsor of the Sydney Harbour Challenge. We're right now webcasting sydneyharbourchallenge.sydney. And of course, we're in the midst of our mixed race. We're excited to see exactly where everybody is plotted out along the way and how close we are. From what I understand from Kala'i is that we are looking at about a half kilometer between the leader, Outrigger Australia, and second place.
That's huge. I mean,
That's
a
hugely.
half a kilometre over that with that kind of calibre of crews. They've done their homework and they've put together a good crew, and there they are. So they look at them. They're doing it quite easy. So I hope our crew can do it like that when we get out there.
Yeah, this is incredible. They're coming in already.
Yep.
And again, we are looking at Outrigger Australia, boat number 21. This is super exciting.
This is it.
This is it. This is our leaders right here. And you can see it. That's our
Crossing the line
Manly Sea
very
Life
shortly.
Sanctuary. We've got the aquarium in the back. We've got... And
Here
there
they
it
go.
is. That's our number 1 leaders. Big congratulations to Outrigger
That's
Australia.
amazing. Great result.
Fantastic. We've got our first boat in, and we're going to be seeing the rest come in soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, so they've got about a 500-metre lead in these conditions. That could be about a couple of minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. So, yeah, they never really were challenged there. So it was, they took it out, backed themselves, and brought it home. So
Love it.
congrats.
Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. I'm Lena Girl of Hawaii, Brad Gall of Australia. Here with me, your co-anchors for today's event. We have Kala'i Miller, our color commentary on the water. And I bet he's excited to be coming in and just to be able to dry off just a little bit before the next race starts. And we're going to be excited to see you. Who are you racing with, and what team should we be looking for?
I'm racing with Team Akaika today.
Nice.
Yeah, good bunch of guys, all pulled together, and just love paddling, and just thought we'd all give it a go, and so we're out there. We'll push the bigger crews along. So yeah, we'll do our best, and Yeah, so we'll see how we go.
You're talking like you're not a contender. You're a contender. How long have you been doing outrigger canoe racing with these particular guys, or is just you guys all love the water and we're all jumping into canoe and we're just going to chance them?
Yeah, well, we kind of jumped in about a year and a half.
Nice.
And had people come and go, and then we've got this crew together, and we get together and paddle twice a week if we're lucky. And we talk about paddling a lot, but the actual paddling we do is a different story. But we do also paddle on the lake, so it's a lot of flat water paddling. We've just recently, with the ability to join this club, have given us the ability to join paddle a canoe in the ocean. So we'll see what happens. We back ourselves. We have a go, but we have fun. So it'll be really good to see.
Awesome.
We got second place.
And second place we are looking at is Gold Coast. Gold Coast, right there in at number 2. And they've actually been tracking very steadily behind Outrigger Australia the whole way.
Yep.
They've never lost that second place spot.
No, and I believe they've placed the last 3 years as well.
Gold Coast has done very well.
Yeah, so awesome to them.
So they've definitely brought in and they are coming in. But, Outrigger Australia did pull away from the pack some time. They still got a little ways to go before they come in.
Yeah. They're running that boat quite well on those chops, as you can see. They're all in time, still reaching out.
Our Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. We now have on camera our number 2 team coming in. Of course, we've got, we're going to be looking essentially at times. We can't exactly say that this is the number 2 team, because it does come down to times, and we've got different categories within the divisions, right?
Yes.
We've got open mix, we've got mixed masters, senior masters,
Yep.
And all of these guys that are competing. But we've got Gold Coast, and like Outrigger Australia, Outrigger Australia had a female in seat 1.
Yeah. It's
Here we're
interesting
also
to
seeing the
see
same thing, Gold Coast.
Yeah, they had a female.
A female
steersman,
and female steersman.
It's an interesting strategy, and she's done an amazing job. They got second. So.
Now, when you say interesting strategy, what do you mean by that? In regards to is it because there's a lot of physical strength that's needed when you're steering?
Yeah, there's a lot of physical strength steering. I don't steer the boat, so I know that I have had a go and I know how hard it is. So I take my hat off to them. I think that they do a really good job. I've just noticed that a lot of the other crews have the male steersmen. So, and this is the Tahitians, I think, third.
Coming in third place?
Yeah, so they weren't too far behind them.
Nope, not at all. But Australia was very well represented in first and second places here.
Yes.
But also good to see an international team getting up there and competing as well.
Yeah, it's great to see. They've traveled the miles and then pulled a result.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, of course, we've got more action on the water as fourth place is coming in. It's the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. We are right now bringing in our crews. Our first, second, and third place have already come in. And, again, this is our fourth place coming in for our mixed race. Our women are already staging and preparing, because a lot of these boats are going to be used so they're going to bring them in, clean them up, and coming out. And it's our understanding that Surfers Paradise is one of these crews coming in as well.
I think that's the...
And we're looking at American Dragons. So it's interesting to see that not only do we have outrigger canoe paddlers here, but we also have dragon boat paddlers. And those guys are known for paddling only on the same side.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They paddle only on one side, having to switch off. A little bit different dynamic for them, but a lot of them do both.
Yeah, it's good to see them crossing over and coming and doing this too.
Kind of like you, crossing over. Paddleboard to outrigger canoe racing. We're going to be seeing some of that action today.
Yeah.
All right, we've got...
these two teams are duking it out coming in, and that's after 22 Ks, that's some good spirit seeing them lift like that.
Yeah, they're going to be pushing. Looks like our white boat is taking that lead. They're digging and they want it even more.
Yep.
It's a mixed race right here, Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. I'm Lena Girl of Hawaii, Brad Gall of Australia, your co-anchors, as we are bringing in our crews right now. An exciting but a very tough race. And I think it's really good for our men's and our women's racers to see what it is that what kind of conditions they're going to be looking forward to in their own 22Ks.
Because the boats are shared, it is really hard to pick up who those crews are. It could have been Service Paradise, actually Service Paradise finishing third, but we'll get that checked for you. But it's a bit of a gap between these top few crews and the middle markers, so soon see a few come in.
I do want to say a very big mahalo to those crews that have given up their vessels so that other teams from around the world could race in them and be able to. And this is something that you see in outrigger canoe racing everywhere around the world. How your host country or your host area is going to pull out all they have. We have another team coming in here. Looks like their tag got kind of washed out. But we are looking to see more of that action coming through. Bringing you the live of the Sydney Harbor Challenge live coverage here via our webcast at sydneyharborchallenge.sydney.
It's interesting to see a lot of these teams come through and have that much energy to finish so strongly. It's a 22K race. They've just fought into it. They've battled the conditions out near the harbour bridge. They've got boat wash, and they've turned around and really come home and finished hard. So a lot of teams have gone away and done some work and come back. And it's as Mike said before, it's a growing sport, and they're obviously putting the work in, and more people are coming along and paddling. And so I think it's a. Here we go.
We're already starting to stage for our women's race. Yep.
Yeah. Out of the boat, swing it around, and get it back out there.
Absolutely. Looks like that's what we're doing here. Man, the visibility out there is just, it's like almost nothing. This is crazy. And yet, this is what our paddlers have battled through throughout the day. The rain has started to pick up here.
Again, finishing strongly, running that boat quite well.
And I guess a little later on, we're going to be seeing a lot of bailing out of water, not just of ocean water, but I think most of it's going to be fresh water.
Rainwater. Yeah.
Rainwater coming in.
Yeah. It gives a great insight for this race, gives a great insight to the following races to come. Like we said, the people watching on have gotten a bit of an idea of course and lines, and watch these other crews, and could say that they've been the guinea pig race, and watch these other crews come through, and then base their race plan off that, and half the time they'll be using their canoe even. So.
Absolutely. Now, for this particular race, we had 55 crews in the water, and we've probably gotten maybe about 10 to 12 back already. So there's still quite a large contingent out there on the water.
Yeah.
Still needing to come in as we are in the middle of the mixed race for a Sydney Harbor Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines.
As I said before, heading into the wind, the crews will be a lot more side by side and vying for positions on can turns and so forth. So when it comes to coming and you're going downwind, you tend to want to be away from other crews. So then what you can do is pull away, and the lineup gets a lot more staggered. So
and that's what we saw as we were coming in, right?
Yeah, so these boats, there could be some quite large gaps in between these guys and the ones behind.
Now we're seeing some of our crews come back. Quite a lot of them are our Australian crews, but we also have crews in this particular race represented Hong Kong, Hawaii, New Zealand, as well as Tonga, and Singapore, and of course Tahiti. Great representation from some of our nations who absolutely love outrigger canoeing. We just got another one in right there. I want to say that that's Brisbane.
In the Sydney boat.
Hey, it's either that or
Sharing's
drive your
caring,
boat
eh?
all the way down the coast. You know, there was rumor that there's a particular team that drove 32 hours with their boats and their trailer, came all the way here. So,
The
you know,
Perth team.
yeah, I would like to see exactly if that rumor is true. But if it is, that's a dedication to the sport like no other. Yeah.
That is dedication. The guys that tow these big canoes around the countryside, so the athletes can race, and I mean some of them are the athletes, but they're not small. They're, you know, they're 40 feet, they're plus, then they're not that light. Takes a few guys to lift them, and yeah, so it's great to see that people have that dedication and then have the will to come to this race here in Sydney and drive that kind of a length of distance.
Well, if anything, I'm happy to see quite a lot of our crews are back and back safely,
Yeah.
especially with the adverse storm conditions that are happening. But we are very grateful to be bringing to you the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. And it's amazing because as a spectator, I'm looking at it and I'm worried for the crews and I'm worried, make sure that they're safe and stuff. But, you know, listening to the number of paddlers that have come talk story with us, you know, Mike Mills-Tom, Jimmy Austin of Team Kokua. I mean, these guys live for conditions like this. They live for the action.
Yeah.
They live for that challenge. And it's been said more than once that, you know, this is an outdoor sport. This is not an indoor sport.
Yeah.
This is an outdoor sport. So we paddle in sunshine, we paddle in rain.
Yep.
You know?
I mean, and Jimmy gave us a great insight. We can see another different style of canoe coming across the line. Gave us a great insight into the types of canoes that are out there. There's so many different types, and everyone looking for that edge. But the evolution of how they, you know, the coalwood canoes, and then they've come along, and now they're, you know, a lot of them are made out of carbon, and then they've got these unlimited canoes that are lighter and strong, and so it's taking paddling to the new
Next
levels
level.
without forgetting about that tradition, and that's important. So it's good to see all these canoes, you know, canoe builders popping up and making these different designs and throwing their 2 cents worth in and seeing how they perform and testing that gear in these kind of conditions. So.
And the gear is working. I mean, it's standing up to what it is that these racers need it to be.
Yep.
You know, so we're excited to see that. We've got this race could literally go to anybody, you know, but we're also seeing a big congratulations to Outrigger Australia, who came through first across that line with about our 55 crews in the water.
Yep. They had a commanding lead from the get-go and just went on with that.
So in recognition of our sport's growing global fan base, this year we've also supported the staging of this high-quality webcast, and we thank you so much for being with us. We are going to be taking down information from all of the different crews and all of the different races that are happening. It's a Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines, and we are in the midst of not only bringing in crews right now, but we're talking story with some of our incredible competitors that literally just got out of the boat, and we're happy to see them. Yeah, and we're here live. I'm Lena Girl of Hawaii. We've got Brad Gall of Australia, your co-anchors, and watching Gold Coast come in nice and strong here. This is an incredible race. Regardless of the storm conditions, our teams got out there and they conquered. And we want to say a very big aloha to Gavin Jordan, who's joining us. How you doing, brother? Hey, Gavin. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me get your mic on. All right. Gavin, you there?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, Gavin, paddling with Outrigger Australia, correct?
That's correct, yep.
Awesome. Congratulations on that
thank
first
you.
place win.
Yeah, no, it was a good race.
Please tell us about the conditions where you folks were out there. You know, we were watching you, and literally from the beginning, you guys led the race. How did that happen for you?
We just got everything together. We put ourselves over to the right of the start line. A lot of the crews backed up over on the left-hand side. Whether that was the advantage or not, who knows, but we just concentrated on what we had to do and put our heads down and went for it. And got us a bit of a gap, and we managed to just be able to sneak away each as the race progressed.
Absolutely. Tell me about your teammates, about some of the guys that you work with. How long have you been paddling with them?
It's a fairly new team this year. 3 of us have been paddling together for probably about 15, 20 years, but a couple of the girls are new to the team, and they did an amazing job. Everyone in the team did exactly what they had to do and just got the job done.
Absolutely. Now, we had our ladies in seats 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yep.
Yeah.
The girls up the front, they set a really good pace for us guys down the back. They don't go too fast, so otherwise we burn out. So they did an amazing job.
Yes, I mean, talking about the rhythm, rhythm and that cadence that they set for you guys.
Yeah, no, just consistent the whole race long. Lifted it up when we needed it on the bumps, and then just when we fought off the back, just brought it back to where we needed it, and just kept it tapping along there the whole day long. So it was really nice to sit behind them and push it along. So
yeah, it was nice watching. You guys had some great rhythm there. It was part of the race plan to go out that hard and take it out and say, catch me if you can?
It's always nice to lead, and there's nothing worse than having to chase. But we didn't really have a massive race plan. It was just get out there and get into our rhythm and keep that going all day long. And if that was enough, that was enough.
Yeah, so race your own race and don't worry about anyone else.
Correct. Yeah.
Good way to
so we just did our thing and turned out all right.
Nice
Fantastic.
Work. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Gavin. I do have a couple more questions for you. Outrigger Australia, when you folks train, what kind of waters are you training in?
Well, we're fortunate enough that we can train in both. Our club's situated on Crumman Creek there on the Gold Coast. And then about 2 k's out is the ocean, so we can warm up the creek and then hit it out into the ocean if we need to, or if its conditions aren't favourable, we'll do up and down the river. So we're very fortunate to have
so you've
both
got different
scenarios.
Different scenarios that you guys can paddle in.
That's correct.
For those people that are just watching the broadcast, because this is a worldwide webcast that we're on, and they've watched you, and we've followed your story all the way through until coming in for that win. Can you give us an idea of what the conditions were like in the water? I mean, was it cold? Was it
the water temperature itself wasn't too bad, but that obviously with that wind blowing on us, yeah, that's right. That kept us I don't think anyone overheated out there today, that's for sure. The first half of the race going down to the turning can at Luna Park, that was probably the tougher part of the race. We were punching into the wind and tide the whole way.
You say it was tough, but we were watching you the whole way, and it didn't look like a struggle for you guys. I mean, we could actually see some of the other teams digging hard, but it was so consistent and so clean.
Yeah, just as I said, just getting in that nice rhythm and just tapping along all day long. So.
When did you feel in the race that the wind and everything sort of started to come to your advantage? When you turned Bradley's head that it was kind of more behind you?
Yeah, probably that last half of the back section of the race. We sort of come around and you get a bit more swell behind you and the wind, and that's when you could probably hear us cheering and you get a bit more enjoyment out of it.
It's always better going with it than into it.
Every day of the week. Every day of the week, So.
Well, we want to thank you guys so much. Thank you very much, Gavin, for joining us, and congratulations to your team. I'm sure they're all celebrating and having themselves a good time, and here you are doing some work.
No worries at all. Thank you, guys, and thank you, Hawaiian Airlines, for putting on the event. It's been great, amazing. We enjoyed it.
Awesome.
On. Enjoy the beers tonight, mate.
Yeah, we will do.
Gavin Jordan of Outrigger Australia. It's our first team coming across the finish line for our mixed race right here at the Sydney Harbour Challenge, presented by Hawaiian Airlines. Thanks so much, Gavin.
Thanks, guys.
Aloha.
The Sydney Harbour Challenge is presented by Hawaiian Airlines. Supported by Destination New South Wales. Find out more at sydney.com. And brought to you in part by these fine supporting sponsors.
The spirit of our home lives in moments like these. Hawaiian Airlines. Hawaii flies with us.
Welcome back to the Sydney Harbour Challenge presented by Hawaiian Airlines. Our mixed race is done. We are going to be preparing now for the women's race. And I know you've got a race to prepare for, right, my friend?
I do. I'm going to go help my crew rig up and get ready.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Are you excited to get out there? I mean, seeing what you saw in regards to the water conditions and everything, you excited?
Yeah, watching the races beforehand, it always gets you a bit, itchy and antsy to get out there. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing the guys and pulling it all together, coming up with our race plan and seeing how we can go.
Absolutely. And the team you'll be racing for in the men's is?
The Kaika A.
Awesome. Yeah. Brad Gall of Australia, world champion paddleboarder. He's taken it twice at Molokai Oahu Paddleboard Championships, so he's very familiar with our Hawaii waters. And of course, Sydney is his home right here, Northern Beaches. So this water is your training ground. This is your competition ground, and you're going to have an awesome race. I know it.
I hope so.
Yes, you are. Thank you so much for your expertise. Right now, though, we'd like to kick on some incredible people. These are fantastic musicians and hula dancers, because this is what we want to do. We want to bring a little bit of aloha everywhere Hawaiian Airlines flies. And so with that, we'd like to share with you the beautiful music of our Hawaiian Airlines Serenaders.